Happy Hump Day, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show on a Wednesday. On location, on remote today, not in our Broadway studios, but at Layton Hills Mall, the northwest corner of the parking lot for a Paris RV Super Show. Come out, check out the RVs, say hello to your boy. Let's talk a little Utah hockey. Let's talk a little Utah football. Most of you probably know that we start our Wednesdays during football season with Coordinator's Corner, offensive and defensive coordinators rotating in and out. Well, last week, Andy Ludwig ducked me because it was a bye. And that's just fine. We love Coach Ludd anyway, but that means I'm given the special treat of having Morgan Scalley on for two conversations in a row. Defensive coordinator at the University of Utah, my friend Morgan Scalley, joins us right off the top. Morgan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Dude, I was unaware that you got ducked. That's messed up, man. You deserve two in a row with Coach Ludd.
You know, he used the bye week as an excuse, but he wants to avoid my always hard-hitting questions, Morgan. You know how it is.
Oh, you are so tough, brother.
I like to pretend that I'm so tough. Let's get into what the bye week was like. First of all, coming off of kind of a heartbreaker of a loss against the University of Arizona, felt like nobody really got to look at the film and say, I did great things here in this game. It just was a kind of a team-wide performance that left something to be desired. So what's the appropriate amount of time to dwell on that film, to use that as teach tape and things like that? How much time did you spend on Arizona before you turned the page?
Well, you definitely no loss is an easy loss. And particularly when you feel like you got a good game plan going in, and the crowd was fantastic. So, the thing is you have to see the film for what it is and not overreact. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Don't let a loss beat you twice. So, defensively speaking, guys played with a ton of energy and passion. We knew that they were going to come out throwing. Very good quarterback, very good wide receiver, and there were some good things on film for sure. Where we need to improve is making sure that we don't allow for extended plays. You saw a couple missed sack opportunities, and letting the quarterback get outside the pocket a little bit, which allows for receivers to get downfield a little bit more, and so we've got to limit that, particularly with the athletic quarterbacks that we will continue to face in this conference. One coming up here in a couple days, and then we have to be better tacklers. Got to be better tacklers, particularly in the secondary, and that's something that we during this bye week we spent some time on. Just getting back to full padded tackling and getting after it. It's never easy to have a bye after a loss. But fortunately, this has been somewhat of a short week going into a Friday night game, and our guys are excited to get back out there.
You guys were able to shut down Tetsuroa McMillan in the second half of that game, and normally I wouldn't highlight one individual on an opposing team not really being productive, but I think he might be the best wide receiver in the entire country. Were there adjustments made at halftime in order to take him away?
Not really. I mean, we had a game plan for him, and he had a few catches early on because we didn't take away the easy throws, and that was plan going in. We focused more obviously on that, on taking away the easy throws, on pressing, getting a body on him. And again, I was proud of our guys for some of the things that you saw in that game. Like you said, holding him to 50 yards, holding them to 190-something yards passing. The quarterback wasn't as efficient as he had been previously. There's some good things that we did. But ultimately, a loss is a loss, and you got to see where we deficient behaviorally. How can we get better? And that's what we focused on. Again, it can be very easy to beat yourselves up and to continue to regret some things that you do, but you got to move forward. And each team that you play can beat you if you're not ready and prepared, and if you don't have energy and excitement. So we've had a really, really good week and a half of preparing for Arizona State, and they're coming off a very exciting win. Their crowd's going to be amped up. They're going to be fired up to be hosting this Friday night game, and we got to be ready.
I definitely want to talk about that matchup. Morgan Scalley, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, defensive coordinator at the University of Utah. Before we turn the page all the way to Arizona State, going out to practice the other day, speaking with some of your players, it's clear, you mentioned a few minutes ago, don't get too high, don't get too low. That's the right thing to do when you're a coach, when you're a player. The fan base doesn't have that responsible of a viewpoint. And the narratives that have developed around this team after a single loss to the University of Arizona regarding the frustration of the Cam Rising situation for everyone, and I know it's greater in the building than it is for any fan, but your guys mentioned the need to kind of insulate themselves, to stay off of social media, or if they're going to be on social media and they're going to see what is said, to have the right attitude about it. As a coach, as a staff, what do you do, especially with the bye week where there's a little bit more free time? What do you do to make sure that guys are kind of handling that the right way?
Well, again, just pointing out it's the film that matters. Nothing that is said outside of what appears on film really matters. What can you correct? What can you control? You can't control what's being said. You can't control what is happening on the outside. So don't pay attention to it. It's not worth it. We love our fans. We love fans. We love, the atmosphere that we have. And, we have to allow our fans to be fans. But we have to be able to understand what we can control, and that's our behavior. That's our product. And we got kids that care. We got really good players and really good kids. And we have to focus on the things that actually matter. And our guys have done a really good job with that. Once you start paying attention to outside voices, people that don't, people know football. I'm not ignorant enough to say that fans don't know football, but, you don't know the ins and outs, the details of what may be going on. And so, again, all that matters is what is on film, what we can correct, and just, maintaining an even keel mindset of what it takes to win football games at this level and getting after it. So otherwise, you're really not focusing on the things that matter.
Part of the benefit of a bye week, even though it did come after a loss, is, after 2 months of football, a month of games, a month of practice before that, hopefully an opportunity to get a little extra rest and get healthy. Do you feel like you guys were able to get healthy and maybe we will see a couple of the guys that have been missing back?
Yeah, and, the thing about that is a season is going to take its toll, period. And do we do everything we can to keep our guys safe and healthy? Yes, we do. But football is a physical game, and it's a game that if you're not practicing the physicality, and if you're not, if you're not developing the guys behind your starters, it's hard to win championships. And so you have to have depth, and that's what we've seen. Is guys step up, and you look at John O'Hall and the reps that he got in the game and how well he's doing. You look at the defensive tackle spot, Dallas Bacala, he's a guy that's going to continue to see more time, more reps. You look at the defensive end spot with Connor O'Toole down, Logan Van and the guys that step up there. So regardless of what the injury status is of guys, you have to have recruited and developed the guys behind them to step up and play at an elite level. And we've got really good coaches that have done that. So, we're excited for our guys, and the guys that aren't ready to go, it's because they're legitimately not ready to go. And so it's up to the other guys to step up. And so next man up mentality.
A guy that it seems like, watching outside looking in, has stepped up, and not in an injury replacement situation, but he did move positions. Teo Johnson appears to be a bright spot on this defense, and there's plenty of bright spots, but I mean he is shining at least for me, it seems like he's just incredibly reliable, assignment sound. He's flying around. And that was, I think, something we were confident we would see this year as a fan base. And then it's translated so remarkably well, at least, like I said, outside looking in. Is he the player at the new position you thought he would be when you made the switch?
No question. Yeah, and again, that's belief in your ability to develop, and this guy cares. He studies film. He wants to be great. He's he's a guy that is very critical of himself, tough on himself. So each week he gains in confidence with his play, and I love coaching the kid because everything matters to him. So definitely things that we can improve on at each position, but definitely excited for Teo and what he brings to the table.
All right, before I let you go, let's talk about this Arizona State matchup. Look, Kenny Dillingham's doing a remarkable job down there with a roster that on paper, you looked at some of the talent they lost in the offseason, it's like, oh, man, this is a depleted group. They are playing so hard. They still got Cam Scatteraboo, who's one of the best running backs in this conference. Very, very hard to bring down. What do you see on tape from the Sun Devils?
Well, if you look at Arizona State, if there was a team that was probably more injury riddled than the University of Utah last season, it was Arizona State. And so you talk about a team that had been through some adversity, some trials, hey, man, let's get an off season to get things right. They've got an athletic quarterback transfer from Michigan State is doing some good things. Scatteraboo, like we've known about him, tough, physical runner, utility guy, can do it all. And they've added some speed in the backfield as well with Raleek Brown. They're using him now that he's healthy at the wide receiver spot. They've got some guys that have been there, but also added some dudes that are making plays. So this is a team that is refreshed by getting some new faces in there, but also getting healthy. The offensive line, the team that we faced last year was very depleted, and their quarterback went down. I think their backup quarterback, when we played them, went down the first quarter against us or something like that. So I think it's just a matter of, yes, really good coaching, really good job recruiting, and then just being healthy. And like I said, they're going to be amped up, fired up to go. Home game Friday night, national television. So we've got to work that out for us. We're excited for it.
What's the key to getting a mobile, elusive, athletic quarterback to the ground? I don't know if Levitt and Fifita are analogous in terms of their ability and escapability, but both of those guys can move a little bit, and both those guys are going to make it a little bit more difficult for your pass rush. And obviously that's a key to be disruptive in that spot. So what's, I guess, like as you're coaching it up, what's the most important change you have to make when it is a mobile athletic quarterback as your pass rush?
Well, understanding where they like to escape to, what is their tendency? Do they like to hit it up the middle? Do they like to reverse out and get on the edges? Are they guys that when they feel pressure, take their eyes off downfield and their focus now is running? Or they keep their eyes downfield and are still looking to throw that ball? We got to do a better job of just coming to balance on some of these athletic quarterbacks. We're out of control. We're coming with a lot of juice and energy, which again, when you pressure, you do not want to be late, and you got to come with some speed, but at the same time understanding that these athletic quarterbacks are going to try and essentially focus on the escape before they keep their eyes downfield. You have to come to balance on them. You got to be controlled in your rush. And then if you've got a guy that escapes up the middle, you got to do a really good job with your defensive ends of not rushing past the level of the quarterback, coming back, making sure your defensive tackles, attack the double team the right way. Your one-on-one has got to have eyes on the quarterback. So, a lot of things you really got to work on. This guy that we're facing this week is proven to be very dangerous in terms of taking off on you, both in the planned quarterback run game and the secondary QB run game when he just takes off on his own.
All right, I know I've taken up probably too much of your time, but Utah sports history made last night. Utah Hockey Club victorious in their first ever game. When's Morgan Scally going to have time to get out there to the Delta Center for a Utah Hockey Club match?
Man, as soon as I have the opportunity. It ain't going to be till after the season, but very exciting times for sports in Salt Lake City in general. And got the win, game 1. Let's go. So fired up for that club, and definitely would love to support when I can.
Can you skate? You're a great athlete who I imagine can probably do everything pretty well, but have you been on skates? Did you grow up playing hockey or doing even skating recreationally at all?
I have been on skates, and let's just say it's not my choice of recreation. Not my first choice. Does not look good. Does not look fluid. Let's just put it that way.
That's all right. We have to throw down an ice sheet to find something that Morgan Scally isn't great at. That's fine. That's totally fine. Dude, always appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining me. Good luck this week.
Always, brother. Always. Thank you. Take care.
Morgan Scally, defensive coordinator at the University of Utah. Coming off a bye week, obviously, and you heard him there discussing how it's not super ideal when you're coming off a loss to have a bye week. Now, there might be a school of thought out there, especially for fans, like, no, that's great. You have extra time to clean up the mistakes. You have extra time to prepare for what's coming next. I think you heard some players allude to it in the sound that we got from practice this week. And I can attest to this as someone who competed at a high level, not necessarily in football, but you want to get the bad taste out of your mouth. You want to get back as soon as you can to showing yourself, to showing your teammates, to showing your fans, to showing everybody, especially as the doubt mounts and as the frustration grows, that you're a good football team. The thing that will control the narrative of doom and gloom and disaster for Utah football more than anything, more than Cam Rising trotting out onto the field at 100%, is a win, is going out there and playing and looking like Utah football, which, because of whatever reason against Arizona, you didn't look like yourselves. I mean, collectively, Andy Ludwig and this Utah offense are going to be better on average than what you saw from them against the University of Arizona in the red zone. They are. I mean, that's not me being biased, although I have been accused of and maybe been guilty of homering out a little bit in the past. But the numbers tell you the actual statistical yield of Andy Ludwig offenses in the red zone, regardless of who's the quarterback, tell you that what you saw against the University of Arizona is not actually going to be the norm. The norm when Cam Rising is on the field is that you're getting into the end zone about 75% of the time. The norm when Isaac Wilson has been on the field, or when Bryson Barnes was on the field last year, that it's closer to that 50% mark, which is not ideal, which is not desirable, but it is better than what you saw against the University of Arizona in that first half, right? So the best way to control that narrative and for this Utah football team to kind of back everyone away from the ledge is getting a win. And the only way that you can get a win is to be out there playing, and the only way that you could be out there playing is if your schedule dictates that you don't have a bye week. So in some ways, the timing of this bye week was perfect for the Utes, and in other ways, it was far from perfect because a lot of these guys want to go out there and they want to erase the tape from the Arizona game. They want to go out there and they want to show you that, you know what, I'm actually much better at gathering and coming to balance when I'm rushing the passer. That most of the time, I don't just go pin the ears back and run right past the guy who's got a little bit of wiggle. Like, Logan Fano wants to show you that, and Van Fillinger wants to show you that, and everybody else who was involved in that Arizona pass rush, which we talked about with Morgan Scally, they want to show you that. And they can't when they're on a bye week. So I expect that on Friday night, and thank goodness it's a bit of a short week, on Friday night in Tempe, this Utah defense is going to be champing at the bit to show you that they're better tacklers than what you saw against Arizona, that they're more balanced pass rushers than what you saw against Arizona. And obviously the offensive woes split it right down the middle, 50% on execution and the players, 50% on the play calling. Both the coaches and the players in that situation want to show you that what happened, especially in that first half against Arizona, is not going to be the norm. And it's not. So let me do my part, I guess, in walking all of us back off the ledge. The thing is, this Arizona State team, and Morgan brought up several good points about it, they're good, okay? Were they depleted by injury last year? Certainly they were. They were depleted in the transfer portal as well. The best player on their team last year was a tight end who had a hard time getting healthy, Jalen Conyers. He saw greener grass in Texas, of all places, at Texas Tech, and he decided he gone. When I saw that, I was like, oh, that really, really hurts them. That sucks for them. That sucks for Arizona State, who already doesn't have like a super loaded roster. Well, guess what? They have figured it out. Kenny Dillingham, one of the youngest, most energetic coaches in all of Power Conference football, has figured it out. 4-1 on the season. A team that in the preseason was picked. You want to talk about underrated? We say BYU was underrated in the preseason. Arizona State was even more criminally underrated. They are 4-1 right now. Wins over Wyoming, Mississippi State. I love to call that an SEC win because Mississippi State, they're so terrible. Texas State. So you've played two of the better Group of 5 conference teams. You've lost to Texas Tech, who again is only a one-loss team this year, and then you beat Kansas. Although Kansas looked better against Arizona State than they have against a lot of teams. Cam Scatteraboo went for 262 yards against Mississippi State. Went for 182 against Kansas. He's rushing for 5.5 yards a carry. The former FCS all-everything Sacramento State monster has proven that the initial model of the transfer portal is for players like this and is successful. He climbed the ladder. He went from FCS to Power 5. He was under-recruited. He proved himself at the lower level, and he jumped up to the big leagues, and he's been excellent. They're a little bit too dependent on him, so I imagine that Morgan and company are going to have a bit of a game plan to try and take him away. But big thanks to Morgan Scally for joining me on the Coordinator's Corner. Great start to the Sean O'Connell Show here up at the Layton Hills Mall. It's been a lot of fun. I took some time before the show started, and I walked through some of these unbelievable vehicles. Sean O'Connell Show on a Wednesday. We're actually not at the ESPN 700 studios on Broadway today. We're at Layton Hills Mall in the parking lot for a mega closeout year-end super event. Paris RV hooking us up today. And the director of fun at Paris RV sitting down with me right now.
That's right.
What does that job actually entail?
So my job is to make sure everybody's having more fun than humanly thought possible.
You know what? I could see that being a strong possibility if I got into one of these recreational vehicles. There's the Berkshire XLT sitting right in front of us. I took a walk through that thing. It's bigger than my house.
Yeah, we'll take your house on trade. We'll take houses, kids, grandkids. We don't care.
How many vehicles are you closing out up here?
So a lot. We've got them stacked deep, selling them cheap. I want to say we've got about probably 50, 60 units here. We've got anything from, like he had mentioned, the tag axle Brookshire down to a $7,900 tent trailer. We have on-the-spot financing. We've got everything priced super, super cheap. It's interesting because this is the time of year to get a deal, right? So in the springtime, it's super busy for us. We can get a little more out of the trailers. This time of year, we are in liquidation mode. So anybody out there looking for a trailer, this is the time. This is the place. We've got plenty of staff. We got tons of trailers. We got anything from tent trailers to tongue pools. We got Nobos here. We got Class Bs. We got Class As. We've got just about a little bit of everything for everybody. Hey, and also, believe it or not, we're even taking trades at this thing.
And you know what? Every budget, really.
Every budget.
I took a little wander around the lot, and there's a certain idea you have in your head if you're not in this RV world, like, I don't know if I can afford this. I looked at a bunch of these, like, this is really nice. And even I could afford it.
Yeah, payments as low as $119 a month. I mean, how can you beat that?
Come give it a look. How long you going to be out here?
We are going to be here till Saturday.
Saturday, this is the northwest corner of the Layton Hills Mall. Just follow the sound of the jets.
Yeah, they've been out advertising for us all day.
Hill Air Force Base with the flyovers all day on the show. And when you get here, say, I'm not looking for anything except the director of fun. Let Troy walk you through.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we will have more fun than humanly thought possible. If you don't have fun, I'm not doing my job.
Troy, thanks for sitting down with me.
You're welcome.
We'll hear from Troy throughout the show today. Really, you should come check it out. I was blown away with some of the options that you have. And, again, the price point on some of these really, really beautiful sleeping multiple people. I thought you had to get up above $100,000 for an RV like that. Not the case, especially with this blowout event. So come check it out. Paris RV making it happen all the way, as you heard Troy say, through Saturday year-end closeout event at Paris RV. All right. James, I have to make a confession to you. I know that when we're out on remote and we're facing the public, I'm supposed to make myself look nice. And you probably want me to be wearing a collared shirt today. Is that right, James?
Yeah, could you just look presentable one time, OC? That's
well,
all I'm asking.
Sorry. I'm not wearing a collared shirt today, and I'll tell you why. Because I am wearing my Utah Hockey Club inaugural game giveaway T-shirt from last night at the Delta Center. Unbelievable experience. If you didn't have a chance to make it out, maybe you watched it on TV. It was glorious. It was nothing short of spectacular. Everything from the very beginning of the night, Shabuzi doing a little free concert out on the Esplanade, and the players walking in on the blue carpet, and the fans showing up early and being loud, and the towels and the T-shirts on every single seat. And then anthem, the national anthem. The young lady who sang that national anthem, unbelievable rendition. Perfect. A great display of her vocal range without getting overly flowery and carrying on for too long. It was beyond excellent. And then you do the ceremonial first puck drop, and kind of like your college game day picker or you're throwing out of the first pitch, it's always someone who's important in the community. So it made sense that Ryan Smith, the Smith Entertainment Group, were going to be present for it, and it made sense that they were going to bring someone in from the Smith Entertainment Group family, a Jazz player maybe, an NBA All-Star maybe, and Lauri Markkanen comes out. But you know what made it so perfect? Is Lauri Markkanen is Finnish. And when you're born in Finland, you grow up on skates. And even when you become a 7-foot monster with incredible basketball abilities, you know how to skate. So Lauri Markkanen skated out. He was actually on skates. The fact that they let him do that, knowing how precious his health is to the Utah Jazz organization, really shows you just how excited everyone in the community was.
We're 2 weeks from tip-off today.
And you know what? So 10 out of 10 on the national anthem, 10 out of 10 on Lauri Markkanen skating out for a ceremonial puck drop, 10 out of 10, they win the face-off, all right? Officially the game starts. Utah Hockey Club wins the face-off, and you have to wait less than 5 minutes before the first goal in team history is scored by Dylan Guenther. The place goes absolutely bananas. Oh, my gosh. I got chills 3 times before we hit the 5-minute mark in that game. Again, I was in attendance as a fan. I didn't want to do the whole media member thing where you have to pretend not to be excited. Not for the first game. Not for the first game in franchise history. I was there with my beautiful wife. I was there with my best friend and his wife, and we just had an absolute ball. It was one of the most incredible, memorable, special moments in Utah sports history, and we all got to be part of it together for the first time together. Oh, my gosh, James Peterson. I am over the moon still from how wonderful that game was.
It was so good, and I chose to be the media member because I don't like to get excited. So it was perfect. No, it was so good. The T-shirts were better than what they've been putting out the last few years for Jazz playoff free T-shirt giveaway, which I was like, I know it's the first game. This is a regular season game. It's better than what they put out for playoff games in the NBA. I was very impressed with the T-shirt, and they did put a few of those T-shirts and rally towels in the media section as well. So I got to take a rally towel and a T-shirt home with me too. I'm wearing a Utah Hockey Club T-shirt today.
How unprofessional of you, James.
Hey, you know how it is in this industry. When it's free, it's mine.
Yes.
So I took
okay.
it.
All right. I wanted to wait a little bit longer to make this confession on the show, but that statement you just made, when it's free, it's mine, is a perfect kind of segue for me. So as fans are exiting the building, they have commemorative pucks that they're handing out, right? Did you experience this?
I did not.
Okay.
I left a little bit before the game ended after
right.
It was in hand a little bit.
All right.
There. So I missed it.
Flag on me, personal foul, illegal procedure, whatever you want to call it. Probably a 15-yarder if we're being honest, because they're handing out, quite frantically, pucks to everybody who's exiting the doors. You're walking past these arena employees, and they're handing out pucks. Here, take it. It's just a commemorative puck for the first ever game, all right? And I'm like, okay, well, thank you. I take the puck. My wife takes a puck. My friends take their pucks. And I look at it and I say, well, all right, if my wife and I have a puck apiece and we have 2 children old enough to appreciate being handed a little souvenir like that, I'm like, but we need one for the studio also. So I noticed that right as I'm ready to exit, right before the door, like tantalizingly last thing as I'm ready to walk out the door, James, there's a box that has already been kind of like dismissed. It's already behind the people that are giving out the pucks. There's an open box, and there's like 3 random pucks just still sitting in the bottom of it. And it's like, it looks like it's just an afterthought. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a liberty here. And I reached in to grab an extra puck. And out of nowhere, like the Caped Crusader, like Batman, an avenging angel stopping me from my theft, a security employee comes out and forcibly grabs me by the arm without saying anything, just grabs my arm roughly, yanks both pucks that are now stacked in my grip, yanks both of them out of my hand, and says, no.
Oh, no.
You can't take 2. And then he walks both of them back and he dumps them in the box that is right next to the employee that is actually still handing them out, and he casts me a dirty look. So now I'm down to 1 puck in my wife's possession. And I was just like, whoa. It was a violent and sudden accosting. And again, this is confessional. I know I was at fault for getting greedy here, for being like, hey, guess what? We need one for the studio also. I could have just told my kids we're sharing the one for home and I bring another one to the studio. And I'm like, oh, wow. And my wife's laughing at me. My friends are laughing at me. They're just like, whoa, that guy just attacked you. And so I walk back to the desk, to the table, and I say, all right. I gently place my hand on the gentleman's back, and I say, I realize you're just doing your job. Can I have my 1 souvenir puck, please? And he's like, there's only 1 for each person in the arena. We've counted them out. I said, I understand. I shouldn't have gotten greedy. Can I have my puck? And he's like, yes, you can have your puck. So he, duly chastised, I am handed my 1 souvenir puck, and tail between my legs, I exit the Delta Center. The only blemish on an otherwise perfect evening, and you drew the confession out of me, James. I was going to save it till the end of the show, but here we are. I am ashamed, but also kind of glad I have a funny story.
That's a 15-yard penalty on OC. I think also a minor penalty to borrow a hockey term now on the security guard, though. For I don't know that it warranted that kind of a response. But,
I mean, it was, dude.
But hey,
it was actually very disproportionately violent. I was just like, whoa, man! All right, I get it.
Did you tell him? Hey, did you know I'm a professional MMA champion, sir?
I spared him the.
Do you know who I am?
I did not do that because, again, I fully acknowledge.
Because you were embarrassed because you were in the wrong. Yeah,
I was in the wrong. All right, I know full well the social contract when there are giveaways. There's 1 T-shirt, 1 towel, and 1 puck per fan in that situation, and I tried to take the liberty because I thought the pucks on the back table were being dismissed, and I was like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to get a little bonus that I can put on display in the studio. Well, James, it didn't work out that way. And here we are.
So did your girls get, your 2 older girls, did they get both pucks, or are we getting one of them in the studio? What was the final verdict there?
I think we'll be able to spare one for the studio because
hey, I'm good with either. I'm just saying it'd be cool to have one in the studio.
Obviously, I got home very late, right? We got home very late, so they were already asleep. And then this morning, I'm just like, look what we got, and they're just like, what's that? They're trying to open it, because they think it's like a makeup case,
yeah,
or it's like a Polly Pocket. They're trying to open it, and they're just like, what is this? Like, it's a puck. It's a hockey puck. And they're just like, what does that mean? So
you're like, it's like a ball, but
yes.
Hockey version.
Yes. So much like the rest of the fan base, we're gonna have to do some hockey education in my household for the young O'Connells. But that's fine.
That's awesome. No, it was an incredible night. The fans were fantastic. See what I did there? No, not on purpose there. But it was awesome. I loved the game ops, what they did with the projection on the ice, which is obviously very popular in the NHL right now. Doing those pregame like amazing displays. They had the snow-capped mountains on the ice in one of these projections. The coolest thing to me though, OC, with those projections was how they put the head coach and the players on the floor or on the ice as they were introducing them. I was like, that is amazing. I videoed all of it, not for Twitter, just for me, because it was incredible. And then they had the American flag during that amazing rendition of the national anthem you already referred to. That was also on the ice. I felt super unpatriotic and un-American as I pulled out my phone to take a picture of it because it was
Can't do it.
it was
Can't
that
do
good.
it.
I did it anyway. You can get away with it in the media seats. So I did it because I'm like, this looks so cool. And then you're so right about Lowry. The guy looks like he was born with skates on, the way he was skating. I'm like, dude can skate. And of course, then I was like, well, he's from Finland, but still that was impressive skating by our guy Lowry, and it just a whole lot of fun. Anyone who missed it, you're gonna have to get out to a game as soon as you can. There's only one first game ever, but I'm pretty sure all of the games this year are going to be an incredible experience if it's anything like last night.
It's going to be phenomenal. The whole experience, like you said, was great. And a reminder, they pulled it off so successfully.
With 5 months?
With so
6
little
months?
time.
Yeah. 5.5, I guess.
Relative to what everyone else in the NHL is doing right now, there was so little time. I mean, there's not even an official franchise name yet, and already you are off to a successful start. I'm fine that this team is going to come back down to earth a little bit at some point.
Well, and the Blackhawks are not good. So they took advantage of that's something to remind the fan base. They looked awesome last night. Utah did. But this does not mean they're going to be top of the Western Conference kind of a team all year long. It probably has a lot to do with how bad Chicago was too. But I think we were talking off air before the show, OC. I feel like they showed enough to say, hey, this team could at least challenge for the playoffs this year.
There are some things that are going to translate for this team. The attack is successful. The top line, the second line even, they have some dynamic scorers on this roster for the Utah Hockey Club. And so a lot of the work was done in the offseason, as we've addressed many times and we've spoken about on the show many times, to bolster the defensive end. And I thought Ingram played incredibly well last night, even as Chicago seized some momentum after they scored their first goal and they were on the attack and they were pouring the shots towards the Utah Hockey Club goal, and Ingram had to, in several breakaway situations, it was him versus potential scorer, and the back line broke down and there was nobody helping him out, and he pulled off some really, really great saves, and I think that bodes well for the season. And with Sergachev and Dursey and those guys back there, I really think that there's going to be a new level of toughness and a new level of commitment on the back line for this Utah Hockey Club. So the goal scoring, as we anticipated, was strong in this first game. Not as strong as the final score would, I guess, indicate, because there was an empty netter in there as well. As 2 minutes left in the game, the Blackhawks cleared out their goal. And it just was phenomenal. It was a great game. We're going to talk more about it on the show today. The pros, the overwhelming positives. We'll talk about some of the things that we as a fan base, we as a group of Utah Hockey Club supporters are going to need to clean up a little bit.
Well, OC, there was a couple of, and some of that that you alluded to as part of this, but there was a couple of other things, unintentional comedy things that I totally enjoyed that I don't think we need to completely clean up, because I enjoy the unintentional comedy. But there's a couple of noteworthy unintentional comedy things I noticed too that we should get to.
You know what? Maybe we'll take a break here and we'll get to some of those things, because it was an overwhelmingly positive, incredible night. I even got free parking last night, James. That's how great the night was. It just, I'm wearing my Utah Hockey Club inaugural game giveaway T-shirt today. I'm sitting up here at the Layton Hills Mall for the Paris RV Mega Closeout year-end event, and I'm just feeling good.
Did you bring your rally towel? Are you waving that around too?
No, I should have brought it, because it's actually a little toasty up here. It's actually warm,
okay.
Unseasonably warm. So I should
sweat towel.
I should have brought it to dab some of the sweat off my brow, as I labor intensely here on these airwaves. We had some technical difficulties, I think, in our first segment, so apologies for that. But a reminder to everyone that the opening segment of the Sean O'Connell Show is brought to you by Alvi Armani. AlviArmani.com will solve all of your hair loss, hair worry woes. If you're thinning out, if you got the bald spots, if the hairline is receding, just contact AlviArmani.com. Go in for a free consultation. Gentlemen, ladies, they could help anybody who has hair concerns. And as always, the show is brought to you by Les Schwab. Wheels, tires, accessories for whatever you drive. Even if what you drive is one of these incredible RVs on sale today and through Saturday at this Paris RV super event. All right. Some of the humor from the Utah Hockey Club's inaugural game. We'll get to that on the other side. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700. Imagine Dragons has 3 shows coming up, Friday, Saturday, and Tuesday at American First Credit Union Amphitheater. We're going to be giving away tickets on the show today. Utah First, what did I say? America First. Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater is hosting the Imagine Dragons show. Like I said, Friday, Saturday, and Tuesday. Tickets available now, and you can listen to the Sean O'Connell Show and the Drive with Spence Checketts for chances to win. All right. We are at the Paris RV Mega Closeout event, Layton Hills Mall, 1201 North Hillfield Road in Layton. The Director of Fun, which is an incredible title for Paris RV, Troy, sits down with me again to talk about this event going on through Saturday, right?
Yep, through Saturday. You know what? One thing I forgot to mention on the last one. So we actually called Mother Nature and ordered up some super good weather for this. And she came through.
Yeah, happy to oblige. So you got the travel trailers, you've got the tent trailers, you got fifth wheels, you have the toy haulers. That to me, that's the ultimate flex. It's like not only do I have the RV to get me out and camping in style, but I've got a little garage on the back of it, so I get the dirt bikes, the four-wheelers, whatever. You got some of those out here, too.
Yep, we do. As a matter of fact, so I don't know if you know this, but Utah just passed this new state law on these toy hauler patio decks. If you buy a new patio deck or a toy hauler with a patio deck, before they'll let you take it, they make you log on to, I believe it's Amazon.com, and for $500, get the portable hot tub to go on the back of it.
That's amazing.
I've heard.
That sounds glorious. Out in the woods, portable hot tub, dirt bikes, four-wheelers, beautiful. What the largest camper you have right here sleeps how many?
So we've got one that literally you can sleep up to 10 people in.
Wow. The pop-outs, how many of them have pop-outs versus how many of them are what you see, what you get?
Boy, I'll tell you what, most of these do have slide-outs, and honestly, when you see the prices that we've got on these with slide-outs, you'll want to just whip your checkbook out.
Well, if I don't have everything in the checking account right now to cover the cost of one
financing.
of these, you've got financing, right?
Yeah, that's true. You don't even need a checkbook in today's world. Just bring your driver's license. We'll provide the pen and the paper for you.
Come out between now and Saturday. I'd like for you to come out right now. Again, we're at the Layton Hills Mall, 1201 North Hillfield Road, the northwest corner of the parking lot. Free parking, plenty of space, free admission. You're just going to come. You're going to browse. You're going to peruse, and hopefully you're going to find something that can help you and your family create memories moving forward.
And I'll tell you what, if we don't have what you want here, we've got 4 lots stacked deep, and we are selling them cheap.
That's Troy, the Director of Fun. Ask for him when you get here, and he'll make sure he hooks you up. Thanks, Troy, for sitting down with me again. We'll hear from Troy and Paris RV throughout the show today. All right, for the hot lunch here on the Sean O'Connell Show, always brought to you by Jersey Mike's, which is the sub above. I think, James, I'm going with the sub in a tub today. I overindulged at the Utah Hockey Club game last night, so I think sub in a tub is probably the right move for me for the hot lunch. Get a little bit more carb-friendly on it. But we wanted to discuss some of the unintentional comedy that we saw at the Delta Center last night. I want you to go first, and then I'll tell you what made me laugh.
There's two things, and they're both in that awesome, introductory video, starting lineups, if you will, presentation, right? Player introduction presentation.
Yeah.
So right before Lowry skates on the ice, they did that thing where they show someone in, I can't remember where they started, but they show someone with the puck far away from Salt Lake City, and then they're handing the puck to other people on video to different parts of Utah.
Like a torch relay.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a certain politician who got booed. And that was just so good, and you have to expect it if you're a guy in that position. But I'm sure the guy didn't take it personally. But he's on the state capitol steps. He's holding the puck and he's smiling big, and almost everyone in the building's just booing him. That was fantastic, and no reflection of what I think of the guy. It's just funny when it's supposed to be, hey, we're cheering for this whole thing, and everyone's booing. So there you go. That was really good. And then the other thing that probably be a little deeper cut that I'm not sure if you noticed this, OC, but they did the in the player introductions, they start with the guys who are dressed but are not on the active roster, basically, right?
Yep.
And the first guy was John Marino, and they have their nicknames in quotations, and his was Johnny.
Johnny. Okay. So the nicknames.
So good.
My wife was getting a great kick out of the nicknames because it's a very hockey thing where they just, it's a very Canadian thing, honestly, which I guess makes it a very hockey thing, where they just, like 90% of the nicknames are just whatever their last name is, like abbreviated, or if you have a short last name, then they add like an EY onto the end.
Yeah,
of it.
Schmaltzy.
You know what I mean? Yeah, Schmaltzy. Now, there was a couple like Vejmelka's the backup goaltender, or the number 2 goaltender. Vejmelka's nickname was Veggie, which I thought was excellent.
I think because of the VEJ start of his name, right? Veg. Yeah.
Yeah. So Veggie, which is absolutely
so good.
phenomenal. And then, of course, spicy tuna. Everyone loves spicy tuna. And then, sometimes instead of adding more onto the end of the name, you just cut a couple letters off. And you're, instead of Cooley, you're Cools. Or whatever. And so
the funny thing about that,
not overly creative with the nicknames is what we were laughing about.
The funny thing about that is if your last name already ends in the EY or the IE ending, they take out that and just leave the rest, like Logan Cooley. or if our listeners who are familiar with the NHL hockey or the TNT NHL pregame show, it's Gretz. It's not Gretzky, it's Gretz. Because if you have a Y ending, we can't use the Y ending.
That's right.
But
so
if you don't, then we have to add it.
If you don't have a Y ending on your name, it gets added, and if you do have it, it gets taken away, and that's your nickname. So,
but Johnny killed me.
Johnny.
Great. The other ones, you're right. There was some that are just the funny last name variations there that don't seem that creative, but they're at least nickname-ish. Johnny's just like. They asked him, hey, what do you want to put on your nickname? And he's like, I don't have one. Let's go Johnny.
Well, I guess Marino does make it tough, though, right?
That's true.
Because what do? Marine? You can't call him Marino-y. So you just got to go. You got to go Johnny.
Johnny.
And it worked out quite nicely. All right. I want to stay on clock as much as we can. So I'll save some of my giggles for later in the show. It was a lot of fun being out there. We are going to talk Utah Hockey Club and the inaugural game, plenty on the show today. NHL insider, my friend Julie Stewart-Binks, is going to join us at 12:30. But up next will be Scott Mitchell to talk some Utah football as they get ready for a road trip to Tempe, Arizona. I'm actually lucky enough to be going on this road trip, filling in for Stevenson Sylvester on the official broadcast. Very much looking forward to that. So the Utah football legend, Scott Mitchell, is going to join us next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show on a Wednesday. It's ESPN 700.
ESPN.com.
All right, Scott Mitchell set to join us here to talk a little Utah football. Scott Mitchell in the conversation with him, brought to you by the Larry H. Miller Chevrolet. Get Chevy ready this month with better than employee pricing and Solitude season passes with every new vehicle purchase. Online at LarryHMillerChevrolet.com. I know a lot of you probably can't even foresee snowboarding and skiing this season because it's been so warm so late in the year, but the snow will eventually fall, and you're going to want to check out Solitude. So you might as well do it with a season pass and a Larry H. Miller Chevrolet purchase. Big 12 at noon is always brought to you by Mountainland Supply, mountainlandsupply.com. They've got a new location as well for you to check out, new physical location. So we'll get to Scott Mitchell here in just a second. The matchup with Arizona State University is an interesting one because what you have is two teams with really polar opposite preseason projections now holding the same record in college football, and different questions surrounding each team as they still try and figure a couple of things out. But this is the University of Utah, who we all know was the preseason favorite in the Big 12 Conference, taking on one of the teams that was in the preseason thought to be a bottom dweller. And that just hasn't been the case. Utah picked to finish first in the Big 12 Conference by the media, by the pollsters. Arizona State picked to finish dead last. So there's a juxtaposition here of performance versus expectations. For Utah, even though they're a 4-1 team with everything left to play for, still very much in control of their own destiny for a Big 12 championship appearance, still very much in control of their own destiny for a college football playoff appearance. A team that still has incredible amount of talent on the roster. I think a promising mix of veteran leadership and newcomers who have offered something unique and different. Some weapons, especially Dorian Singer, that you've really been lacking and wanting as a Utah football roster for several years now. They're here. So at 4-1, a lot of fans hoped and expected you would be 5-0, but at 4-1, nothing is off the table for the University of Utah. It just isn't. Now, it looks different than we thought it would, and the optimism and the positivity has eroded some because a continual problem with Cam Rising and the injury situation, the communication around that, all the things that we've been talking about for over a week now, through the bye week and into this game week. But you're 4-1. The reality of the situation is you are 4-1. And that 4-1 feels less than or feels inadequate to your fan base. It feels like a disappointment of sorts. But you're 4-1 with everything to play for. Now, on the flip side of the coin is the team you face this week in Tempe, Arizona, Arizona State, who a lot of people thought would never get to 4 wins this year. A lot of us projected them to be the worst team in the conference and a group that you would not have to be concerned about until, 2028, if you did at all. So right now, even though the records are identical, it feels like Arizona State is the team that has more positivity. It's Arizona State that has the better storyline. It's Arizona State that has more excitement around the program right now. And objectively, that makes little sense. Subjectively, I totally understand why people are where they are at. If you were getting all conference level play out of your quarterback, whether it was Cam Rising or Isaac Wilson or whatever, you'd be like, okay, good, we're fine. Arizona State is in a situation where they still want more from their guys. They still want more from their quarterback. But right now they're happy with the results. And, of course, you're not going to hear the coaching staff gas the team up and say things like, oh, yeah, we thought we would stink this year, but here we are. Like, Kenny Dillingham, despite his youth, is smart enough to know that you got to keep the hunger there. You got to keep telling your team nobody believes in us. And there are plenty of skeptics still. But the formula for success for Arizona State right now has been, playing hard and not allowing mistakes in games and turnovers in games be excessively impactful. Not allowing situations that arise that you would call adversity take them out of a game mentally. They keep themselves in it with some physicality and with some effort. And their toughest games are ahead of them, and this game against Utah is going to be one of their toughest games. But it is a really fascinating dynamic where Utah at 4-1 is kind of shuffling its feet and, and I don't mean as the team, I mean sort of collectively as the football community, like looking down at the ground and just being like, I don't know, man, there's some skepticism, there's some worry. Is this year going to be what we thought it was going to be? I don't know. And Arizona State is like, we're playing with house money now, baby. Nobody thought we could do this, and here we are. And it's, I don't know, it just is fascinating to me. Now, the reason that Arizona State is dangerous for you personnel-wise is also pretty different from what you're going to see from some of your other stiff tests that are coming Utah's way. Cam Scattaboo right now is the second leading rusher in the Big 12 Conference. He's going about 5.5 yards a carry. He's got 615 yards total. He's 123 yards per game as a rusher. If I'm Utah, especially coming off that Arizona performance, my number one goal in this game is keeping Cam Scattaboo underneath 100 yards rushing. Because it does two things. It serves the primary function of slowing down the Arizona State offense and forcing other less talented, less proven people to beat you. It makes somebody else be the thorn in your side. You know what Cam Scattaboo's capable of, all right? He is an absolute load to bring down. He's got breakaway speed. He's a complete back who doesn't look like a lot of the backs in the country, and that's probably one of the reasons that he got overlooked coming out of high school and had to take this circuitous path to Power 5 or Power 4 success. Still got to get used to saying Power 4. That's fun.
And by the way, Scattaboo, was that on the all-name team? Because if it wasn't, it's got to be, right? Because every time you see a running back run, sometimes they say he scats for about 5 yards. He Scattaboos for about 15 yards. Like I think of like his name is the perfect name. It's fun to say, first of all, but it's also kind of the perfect name for a guy who runs the way he runs. Like, well, he's Scattabooed it for another 15 yards, and that's the game.
He's a problem, man. And
he's good.
Arizona State collectively as a group is the fourth best rushing offense in the Big 12. It's UCF number one. It's Kansas State, West Virginia, and then it's Arizona State. Now, they have to lean on that because their passing offense is not great. Their passing offense is 13th in the league, and they have a freshman quarterback who he's not efficient. He's dynamic. He's got ability, but he's not efficient. He's not consistent. Does that sound like anybody to you? A freshman quarterback who's got
Let
a
me
little bit of speed,
think.
a little bit of athleticism, a little bit of wiggle, and he just isn't overly, excessively consistent.
Kyle
or reliable.
McCord. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of my team, my Buckeyes. My last year. My bad. I not. Oh, Isaac Wilson.
So it's just it's a bit of a mirror in that regard, and I think that Arizona State, to their credit, has adjusted for it in some ways that Utah is still trying to adjust for it. I think Kenny Dillingham and his staff realized, especially in the first part of the season before Raleek Brown was 100% ready to go, they looked at their offense and they looked at the weapons available and they said, how many games can Cam Scatterbo win by himself for us? Because, Levitt's going to be fine, but the best player on this team and the best player on this offense is Cam Scatterbo. So can we just, ride that horse until the wheels fall off? And one of the things that you have to do when your roster is, I guess, a little underpopulated with talent is you just got to ride the hot hand. And it seems like it can be a curse, but if everyone around that super talented player or that collection of super talented players is playing hard, it really goes a long way. It really does a lot for you. There's not a single guy on this Arizona State offensive line that any of us had a single thought about in the preseason. There's not one guy on this offensive line at Arizona State University that other coaches were looking at and pining after and saying, oh my gosh, I wish I could get him to our spot. I wish that we could have big number 79 play for us. It's just a testament to the coaching that's happening right now at Arizona State. And I'm not here on the home of the Utes to gush about them and to gas them up and to tell you that they're supposed to beat you. But I'm telling you that the juxtaposition is an important one, where at 4-1, you are probably driving around this week and all of last week with a little bit of mope to you that, oh my gosh, Utah is not as good as I thought they were going to be. And Arizona State at 4-1 is kind of dancing their jig into work. Like, hey, how about these Sun Devils? We didn't think it was going to look like this. How fun is that?
Is that a jig where they jump to the side and hit their heels together, that kind of a thing into work? That's what I'm picturing. Hey, look at that, 4-1.
The Sun Devils are clicking their
They're
heels.
Clicking their heels on their way into work.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I would take it that far. But I think the point stands where you've got the expectations versus the reality. Those memes out there. The expectation versus reality right now for Utah feels like fast food advertising, where the commercial makes that Whopper, makes that Big Mac, makes that, whatever, Big Star Burger. I have to have one of those. Look at that thing. It's 6 inches tall. It's juicy. You can see the fried onion straws hanging out.
Greatest burger I've ever seen.
They've got just the appropriate level of sauce drizzling out the side. This looks perfect. And then you actually go order the dang thing, and they hand it to you, and it's smashed flat, and it's wrapped in this weird off-color wax paper. And then you open that thing up, and you see that the manufactured cheese single slice is sliding off to the side, and that what sauce was put on it was done so by a completely apathetic teenager who just doesn't even care about sauce distribution on every single bite. So there's one overly aggressive blob about the size of a quarter that is now soaked into the bun. And you're just like, this is not what I saw on the television.
No.
It's expectation versus reality, right?
And that's just one loss making Utah fans feel that way.
That's what I'm saying.
It's crazy.
That's already a loss to Arizona, who is a good team. I know that they don't have the sexy record. They're not Iowa State. It's not as justifiable for you as a Utah fan as another loss, as one of the expected losses might have been. But they're a good team. And I told you in the preseason, Arizona was going to be a problem for you. I didn't think they would be a problem for the same reasons that they became one, but they were going to be a problem from the get-go, and nobody really wanted to listen to me. The wild thing about this, James, is if Utah was 4-1, with the loss coming on the road to Oklahoma State, everyone would have just been like, all right, well, it's not perfect, but we're okay with it.
Yeah, that's the one we thought we'd lose, so it's okay. Everything going according to plan.
And that's because of this expectation versus reality bias that we have, where people are just like, well, my expectation was that Oklahoma State would be the problem. And when they became the problem, it confirmed my bias. And so I'm like, all right, I'm not going to cry about that. Well, guess what? Arizona's actually a better team than Oklahoma State. So if you had lost to Oklahoma State, it would have been more dire than a loss to Arizona.
With the way it's worked out in the season so far. Preseason, it felt like it would have been an okay loss, but now it absolutely would not have been an okay loss.
So let's get away from our expectation versus reality meme reliance, okay?
Meme reliance, again, I like that term.
The expectation versus reality for the University of Arizona is they thought that they were going to Wendover, and instead they're on like the strip at the Vidara or in one of these like big fancy hotels.
Atlantic City, right?
No, stop saying Atlantic City. Stop referencing that hellhole on this program. Atlantic City.
Oh, sorry. You meant Vegas. My bad.
It's like you thought you were going and staying in one of those dingy, smoke-stained rooms in Wendover, and instead you got the George Clooney suite in Vegas. And you're just like, oh, cool. And then an envelope slips under the door, and it's like, look at this. What's in here? Oh, my gosh, free buffet vouchers. That sounds fun. I get to go see Blue Man Group, and I get to bring 3 people with me. This is going to be the greatest vacation ever. That's the reverse of this expectation versus reality. Arizona State came into the year thinking like, oh, boy, going to be a tough one, going to be a rebuild, going to be a bit of a slog. And now they're gambling with house money. Cam Scatteraboo has been absolutely incredible. Levitt has been better than expected. And your offensive line has played really, really well. So at the end of the day, Utah should be the better football team here. But I think proving you are the better football team is going to be in some ways reliant on the internalization of the belief that you are the better program and the execution of superiority based on that, instead of just like this nervousness, this trepidation that comes with being below your level of expectation this year.
And if ASU is dancing the jig or clicking their heels or whatever we want to say that they're doing at 4-1, can you imagine what BYU's doing at 5-0 too?
Well, we know BYU is doing it's the most BYU thing ever, right? Because they're like doing like the Soldier Boy dance because in Provo they still think that's cool even though it's from 10 years ago.
And they don't quite know what the words mean too. But anyway.
Okay. I was going to
leave that there.
I was going to leave that alone. Arizona State, by the way, matches up defensively in a way that probably makes you uncomfortable as a Utah fan, because they're pretty good against the run, and what you feel like you can rely on right now for Utah is the run. And the passing offense this week is going to have to find itself and going to have to feel better about itself for the University of Utah. And, of course, I'm not just talking about in the field. I'm talking about in the red zone as well. So
I'm curious what you think now that we've got 5 weeks of games to go off of here, OC, in a month's worth of sample size. Because you were talking about Scatteraboo and how he is basically the offense for Arizona State, and how much obviously they're relying on the run game with Scatteraboo. How are you feeling about Utah's defense 5 games in, the run defense? Because I remember going into Utah State, you were a bit concerned about the run defense against SUU, and Faison was off to a good start for the Aggies. I'm wondering how you feel a few weeks later, and they're going up against an even better running back in Scatteraboo.
I don't feel great. Your most recent performance for Utah in the tackling department was not good. And the running back that you're facing this week is, well, I think statistically about twice as good as the guy that was doing that to you last week.
Yeah.
Or 2 weeks ago, I should say. So when I say I don't feel overly good, that is if I expect Utah to play the same way they did against Arizona State. And I don't. That was the bad game of the year for the Utah defense. Now, the offense, we'll see. But that was the bad defensive performance for Utah football that you're going to get this year. And that, to the frustration of the fan base, they've gotten pretty much every year. Even in Pac-12 championship years, I have to remind people sometimes, there were games where you're just like, what is happening here? How is San Diego State marching on us? So like, I feel like I've taken on this responsibility, James, of reminding people of how you don't have to panic about certain things. But you're the better football team. You just have to believe it and you have to prove it. And I think that belief is actually harder to come by than people give it credit for because of this expectations versus reality problem.
Yeah, the expectations can be a burden. As much as it helps with exposure of the brand and it gives a lot of people excited, it can also be a little crippling once it comes down to it. When you have a bad game and all of a sudden it feels like the sky is falling for everybody outside of the program, that can be it can be crippling. And we've seen that before with these great Utah teams. The good thing is, too, though, on the other side of that coin, we've seen these good Utah teams respond and go on to win Pac-12 championships, as you just mentioned. So, and I loved what Morgan Scalley had to say to you about what they do to kind of handle the outside noise and those expectations that cause a lot of consternation when you get your first loss of the year. You said, we just preach control what you can control, and you can't control what people are saying. But you can control everything else, right? And hopefully the team's taking that to heart over this bye week.
All right, that's your Big 12 at noon, brought to you by Mountain Land Supply. Go to mountainlandsupply.com. We're up here at the Paris RV Mega Closeout Super Event, Layton Hills Mall in the northwest corner of the parking lot. Brett from Paris RV sitting down with us. Brett, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We got to get your mic on here. That's going to be helpful. Again, Brett, welcome. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us up here.
Yeah.
So you're open till Saturday.
Yep.
What are the hours? So if I get up here like 11 at night, I'm knocking on the doors of these RVs, I don't think it's going to
Well, there
yield
might
great
be
results.
somebody sleeping in one. I'm not sure. But bottom line is we're going to be here at 10 a.m. and we're going to leave at roughly dusk. So I'm not sure what time that is right now because I haven't been paying attention. But let's say is that 6:30, 7-ish, something
All
like
right,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, just whenever you can't really see, we're going to go ahead and lock the doors and head out.
All right, so there's something on the lot, it feels like, and I only had a chance to walk about half of the lot this morning before we got on the air. It feels like there's something for every budget up here.
You know, we've got one right in front of us here. That's a big diesel tag axle 2023 motorhome. That thing's like $320,000. On the other hand, we got one right on the right-hand side, a nice used tent trailer here, and we've got those down around $5,000. And then everything in the middle, so toy haulers, travel trailers, fifth wheels, teardrops, Class A's, Class C's, B-vans, you name it, it's here.
Do I need a CDL to drive something like that?
You know, they'll let you drive that with a Utah license.
Really?
That's amazing, isn't it?
That's amazing.
No training. You're 16 years old, you can get in and go.
I mean, that's amazing. I don't know if I like that idea.
Maybe you head on down in that 45-foot tag axle to get your driver's ed test at 16.
I'm not joking. That is larger than my first, 4 apartments in the first house that I lived in, square footage-wise.
Well, for sure, when I was younger, I had some apartments. I had one over there on 39 South, just, heading out on the west side of the valley there. I can't even remember what it's called. Fairview Apartments.
There you go.
It was a studio. For sure, that's about twice the size.
It's absolutely incredible, the selection up here and financing options available.
Yeah, we've got everything you need right here on the spot. There's financing. You can finance these things, most of them with very little money down. And let's don't forget that they are all used RVs. And you might wonder, where the heck did we get so dang many used RVs? Well, they came from all over the Intermountain West. We've got some repos. We've got some buybacks. We've got some rental returns. And, of course, a whole bunch of trade-ins. They came from all different locations. And, many of them, this little Winnebago B-van right here, this little Bolt. I walk into that thing, and I'm not sure how you'd tell between a new one and a used one. It looks absolutely brand new. But what I will tell you is when I looked that thing up, it was about $40,000 less than a new one.
Wow.
It's a 2023, looks exactly like a new one with 6,000 miles on it. I don't even know how you'd tell the difference.
I'm not just blowing smoke for anyone. I took a little walk through that one.
It's cool.
And I thought it was new. I thought this was a mixed situation where some are new and some are used.
100% of them are used RVs, and like I say, they come from a variety of different backgrounds and different areas. But, the nice thing about a used RV, if you're kind of a first-timer or you're not really sure what you want to do, maybe you come down and get one of these nice little travel trailers here, go out, take your family out, go camping, see some of our fabulous areas here in the background, right here in Utah, like our state parks, national monuments. And if you absolutely love the lifestyle, that $15,000 trailer over there that sleeps 9, that thing will be worth $15,000 a year from now. You could go ahead and upgrade, get a different one, and it didn't really cost you anything much to figure out whether or not you're into this lifestyle, and which, by the way, you will be, because everybody loves RVing once they start.
Come up here to Layton Hills Mall on Hillfield Road. Follow the sound of the fighter jets that are flying over us. And check out some of these RVs. Ask for Brett. Thanks for having us.
Hey, thanks.
All right, back to some Utah Hockey Club discussion. Behind the glass we go with Julie Stewart-Binks, NHL Insider. That's in 3 minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700.
Indeed.com.
Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. We are all basking in the glow of the Utah Hockey Club's first ever franchise win, which happened to come in the first ever franchise regular season game. It was glorious. NHL insider who's going to join us all season long for Behind the Glass, my good friend Julie Stewart-Binks, joining us now. JSB, what's up?
I'm also basking in the glow of what an incredible night that was. I can't imagine what it's like for you, Sean, being there in Utah and feeling that energy. It's great to chat hockey with you because as we have a past of talking about MMA, so it's like, you know, MMA on ice in a way.
Well, there was a moment in the game last night that got a little bit closer to MMA on ice. Dursey and Murphy mixing it up. Murphy goes after the captain. Dursey does his job. I didn't like the fact that he ended up on the bottom, and after they stood up, I wish the referees would let him keep going like Dursey wanted to. But he had a little bit of blood, had to go into the dressing room to take care of it, and it felt like that was an important moment in franchise history because, again, like this is a new market. We are new to hockey, at least at the professional level, at the NHL level, and a lot of us are learning the game and the little nuances and the ins and outs. And I was sitting next to my wife. We attended as fans, and she's like, they just let him fight, kind of? I'm like, well, they don't technically let them because there's penalties and he's going to miss the next 5 minutes. But I don't know. It's not even a question. It's just it felt like an important moment. Not quite as important as the first goal being scored, but it was a good one.
Yeah, I think that's a funny nuance when you do think about it. You've always, especially for me, growing up in Canada, I've played hockey my entire life, watched hockey my entire life. There are these little moments where someone asks you about the game like that, and you haven't really thought, well, yeah, why is this part of it? But it is, and obviously, you know, there's different situations in terms of, you know, you get penalties, you're not like allowed to kill a guy. Like there's various things you don't want to have issues with concussions and head hits and all that kind of stuff. So, but I'm glad that what I'm seeing coming out of Utah is just more hockey fans and people being like telling head coach Andre Tourigny, like, I'm a fan for life now, hearing about that. That's so cool. And I think watching it all from afar, I had so much FOMO. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I was there right now because it was just the center of the hockey universe last night. And the vibes were off the charts and everyone was just having a great time and everyone on the ice was having a great time. And you mentioned the fight being an important part of the history of Utah hockey and for people to see all the different elements of the game. But then you guys were treated to like an incredible show and seeing that first goal, my gosh, I think I screamed. Like that one-timer from Dylan Guenther. It's just like, wow, that was pure sorcery. So have fun with that kid because he's going to be dynamite.
Yeah, it's the captain, Clayton Keller, said, you know, he's a star. Not he's going to be a star. He said he is a star. I've had a lot of fun playing with him the last year and a half or so. And when you look at this roster on paper and you see some of the moves they made in the offseason, you're like, yeah, okay, we know what Keller's capable of. I feel like Logan Cooley is going to be a star in this league. And Guenther, his name was put in that conversation, but we saw a couple of goals from him. We saw those moments, that first goal in franchise history, and we saw a guy who just looks like he was born to do this. He was born to score goals. So what do you think the ceiling is on a young player like that?
Wow, man, I think the sky's the limit with him. I think he is one of those players that we're going to be looking back on at the end of this year in, 5 years, 10 years, and saying, wow, remember when he scored for Utah and people were talking about him, but they weren't necessarily thinking like the level of what he could be unless you were really dialed in. Because watching him in the preseason, he did really well. He gets this contract extension. I think like everyone, when you see a player get a contract extension for that length and for that amount of money, and he's that young, and you do kind of look at his background and seeing how well he's done wherever he's been, whether it was in Seattle or he's with the Oil Kings in junior, he has done well wherever he's been. You think like, well, this guy, he's passing all the grades really, really with flying colors. So what would say, the projection, everything's always about projection in hockey. You project that he's going to be an incredible goal scorer, but more than that too. I know that Tourney had said people talk about him being a goal scorer, but he's, really great at defending. He can skate. He has skill. He's very good on the power play. And I think he could be a breakout star of this year. I mean, he could be really like rookie of the year, win the Calder Trophy at this point, because I'm saying that after one game because that's what we like to do in sports, is sort of like anoint the heroes after one game. But I don't see why not, because if he's scoring at a clip like that, and I mean, Chicago, not really like the hardest or toughest opponent, but I think with the right pieces around him, and we saw that top line was clicking, like even the fact that these lines are clicking and they've gone through so much to get to this point, like I think, hearing Logan Cooley say that this was like the most excited he's been for a game, and hearing these guys that have gone through so much with everything with Arizona and not knowing kind of their future and having all those distractions and then not having those distractions and instead being celebrated and being excited to play hockey and not worrying, oh, is this vote going to go through or what's going to happen? Where are we playing? I think that like we're going to see probably a team that is obviously going to come together pretty quickly, and they've had to. But like I think a team that almost is inspired by just more than what we see in a locker room normally. Like they've been through more than any other team out there. So I think that could be something that really elevates them, and I think that they're going to do better. I think they can make the playoffs. And I think that's because goaltending and depth of scoring, but the defense needs to be a little bit better.
Well, yeah, look, I'm very much a prisoner of the moment right now, and I'm like 5'2". I'm going to project that out over 85 games.
Parade, John.
Yes, I'm like 85 games. This team's going to score 400 goals this year. It's going to be absolutely incredible. I'm definitely a prisoner of the moment right now, just living in my fan era for this Utah Hockey Club. But it was the Blackhawks, who are, I guess, like in a similar stage, probably even a year behind maybe in a franchise rebuild. And I know that we have to come back down to earth a little bit. So big picture, you zoom all the way out, and as someone who has followed the NHL so closely for a lot longer than most of the fans here in Utah, you know what the real power players are, and you know what it really takes to get from being, the promising young upstart team to like, hey, this is a playoff team, and this is a team that can make a run in the future at a cup potentially. We'll start in the short term. How realistic is that playoff viewpoint for this Utah Hockey Club?
I think it's more realistic than people are giving Utah credit for. However, I think that we have to remember that injuries and staying healthy is like such a big part of this all, because when you look at, say, another younger team that had high expectations last year, New Jersey Devils, all of their stars got injured at some point during the season, and they didn't make the playoffs. And I remember even thinking, I think these guys could win the cup before the season. Now they're back and they have a better goaltender, and they look like they could, go from they could really elevate themselves. But it is so much about staying healthy and keeping these guys from really burning out, right? And also, I think like it's great to have the moment with Utah and all the excitement, all the off-ice stuff, but there is such an importance on staying level-headed throughout this entire season so that it isn't so chaotic off the ice, mentally, physically, all that kind of stuff. So that is a bit of an X factor, but I think like with the pieces you have in place and looking at the division, looking at the conference, like I think they could be a team that could sneak in also because of other teams maybe not performing up to their level, like a Winnipeg Jets type of thing. Like I think that they could benefit from other teams not living up to their potential. But I think if they can stay healthy, and I think if they can they're really good in net. Like we have to remember Connor Ingram, he had a good game last night. Like I'd say he had a good game. He had a good game when he needed to be. He was sharp, especially early on when you really need to set the tone. But this is also a guy I think is a bit underrated, and I think that's also because he was with Arizona and kind of like all that kind of stuff that went along with it. He's been through a lot. He's obviously, a stand-up character guy who is just so well respected. He won the Bill Masterton Award, and, he has a great record. And I think that that's something that will be really important. Obviously, goaltending is so important. Goaltending, number one. Then I would say defense, they got to figure that out a bit. They've got some good guys there. When you look at Sergachev and Marino, and even then, of course, you said Jersey and Ian Cole, not necessarily the top, but if they can kind of figure out, chemistry is going to be big, and that takes a little bit of time.
There was a significant stretch when this game was far from decided where they could not clear the puck out of their own end, and Ingram was just under fire constantly and head on a swivel the whole time. And, I mean, even the uninitiated fan could start to feel a little bit of tension rising in that Delta Center air. It all worked out in the end. 5-2 was the ultimate result. But is that a sign of maybe the primary thing that has to be worked out?
Yeah, I think definitely. And I think that that's also kind of a great show for fans to see. I mean, it turned out well for them, but to see that you can go up and you can be rocking and rolling up 3-0 and then be facing a situation where you could be tied 3-3, and be overtaken. I mean, the fact that Chicago had more high endangered chances, they had more chances in the third period. They certainly had a lot more of a better offensive forecheck than Utah. But overall, the high danger chances were pretty even, and of course Utah had more in the first period. But the fact that that fans did get to see their team have to sort of figure out a way to weather that storm, and they did, but that's not always going to be the case, especially against really, really good teams, right? Like a Florida, Boston, any of these teams, Edmonton, that's going to really show you kind of, oh, all right, maybe our Chicago opener isn't necessarily the blueprint of what we want for the rest of the season. We've got to be a whole lot better when getting the puck out of our zone. I mean, turning it over, getting it out. It's just, those are things that they really are going to have to work on. But those are things that it's not like they just click, right? Those are things that so many teams have to continuously work on. But defense is such a position I don't envy being a defenseman, because you are only noticed when you mess up. No one is well, that was a really, really great defensive play. It's no, they don't really, maybe they'll say that once every so often, but it's more so they notice if you've, pinched a guy in the wrong position. So tough.
All right, before I let you go, some more of the fun stuff here. How long should it take for a real hockey culture to emerge and for organically this team to have good chants in the crowd and to know what we're throwing on the ice if there's a hat trick and to just have real hockey culture? You were born into hockey culture as a Canadian. How long should that take in Salt Lake City?
Honestly, it can take one game. If someone does something and it's that's the thing. You throw something on the ice, which I'm not condoning any of that. But if you do something, it's the spicy tuna thing. You know, that's now part of the identity. I think it takes one thing, and I'm saying this as I'm looking at a towel from the Mets game I went to last night. It says OMG on it, right? That came from Jose Iglesias coming up with this song this year, and then someone creating an OMG banner around it. That's now then on the towels for the postseason. It can happen overnight. And I think as long as you're into it and people catch on to it, it can happen. I mean, we look at Vegas. I went to a game last year there, and I couldn't believe how many sequins I saw at a hockey game. I'd never seen that in my entire life. But everyone was into it, and they'd already won the Stanley Cup. And so I think it's you don't have to go through all this, oh, you weren't an original six team. oh, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. It's like, I think hockey culture can just be, and I think it should be encouraged that anyone and any time and any part can be a part of hockey, and they can create a new script of what can be written. It isn't, we don't want it to be what it's always been in the past. That's why it's great to have this influx of new characters and like a new identity. And so, follow whatever the vibes are, which seem to be pretty good. I mean, I think the chugging out of the shoe is a little bit odd, but like that's sometimes that's sometimes what happens. It becomes a thing,
That's an MMA thing that actually came from rugby, and it's just like grown all over the place. And I don't know if I'm comfortable with it either, but here we are. We saw it at the Delta Center last night. Last thing before I let you go, you talk about identity, and it's Utah Hockey Club right now. I think it's going to be Yeti eventually. Clayton Keller accidentally let it slip, and Bill Armstrong, the GM, actually didn't let it slip. But where do you stand on Utah Hockey Club versus Utah Yeti versus maybe some other name from the fan poll?
Okay, well, listen, I figured this out a long time ago. When the Winnipeg Jets came back to Winnipeg, that was when I had my first full-time job in 2011. And I remember everyone hated the logo. And someone I worked with said, no one is ever going to like a logo or a name unless it like gives them money or like gives them candy or like gives them something, right? Like no one is going to like anything. So you just have to know that whatever happens, actually Mike Tirico said this on a podcast recently. If 50% of people hate something you said and 50% people like what you said, then you said the right thing. Because that's just sort of what like the universe is like. Not everyone's going to like what you do or say, and some people are going to love it. So I think that the fan base, if it's good, half will hate it, half will like it. But I think people get attached to things. I think people are going to like Utah Hockey Club, and I think that's going to be the hardest part. Even though they probably maybe didn't before, people always find a way to make it more difficult than it should be. So I think if that's your biggest problem, you're doing a good job. And I think that regardless, like you have so many great people in place, especially from the top down. I think that they're going to do it right. And I did learn that it does take quite a while for a jersey to be made and like for the logos to be designed. It's a great article in NHL.com that talked about just like it takes for these Winter Classic jerseys even takes at least like 12 months to make them. I had no idea. I thought you could just make one.
Yeah. I thought you could just make one.
Know that.
I mean, I knew I couldn't make one, but I thought someone could make one. Like you Photoshop and then you put it into like a sewing machine and then you're good. I thought, but I guess not. All right.
Right. Like it might take like a week, 2 weeks. I don't know. Not a year. So, but yeah, Yetis, whatever. I think whatever it is, they're going to do it well because they're going to make sure that the fans are into it.
All right. We're going to be bothering you every single week, whether you like it or not, because you're our NHL insider now.
Yes, I like that if you say it on air, it means it sticks. It's
right.
Real.
That's our resident NHL insider, Julie Stewart-Binks. Best in the biz. Thanks, Jules. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me on.
JSP. It's my homegirl. We worked together on some MMA stuff with the PFL Challenger Series a couple years ago, and she is just excellent on the NHL. I assume you're just born with a hockey puck in your hand when you're Canadian, and that's probably why she's so smart with the NHL stuff, but that's the deal. All right. Before we get to another quick break, Zachariah Hour is starting in about 6 minutes here on the program. Advanced Window Products is offering $2,500 off 10 windows or more. During the Utah football season, they want to make sure that your windows are aesthetically appropriate, but more importantly, they are energy efficient. They are keeping the heat out. They are keeping the cold out and the heat in when we get to that time of the year. Call Jake, call Nate, call Advanced Window Products, 801-851-9100. and tell them that OC sent you for $2,500 off 10 windows or more at Advanced Window Products. We'll wrap the hour up here on the Sean O'Connell Show from the Paris RV mega event at the Layton Hills Mall. That's coming next on ESPN 700.
What up, man? Yeah. You got me, man. Hey, Zachariah, you got me? Hey. Couple minutes here.
Sean O'Connell Show continuing on a hump day. We're at the Paris RV Closeout Mega Event happening at Layton Hills Mall, the parking lot, the northwest corner of the parking lot. The brains behind the operation, Brett, sitting down with me one more time here on the show to talk about what is on offer up here. So I think I asked Troy this earlier, the exact number of vehicles that are for sale right now, and he gave me kind of like a ballpark idea. It was a bit of a mystery. Do we know the exact number?
You know, I didn't actually count them. I probably should have, but what I can tell you is there's about $7 million worth of used RVs in our network.
All right.
And so the space was only as many as we could put
Hey,
in this
Zachariah,
spot.
can you hear me?
And we definitely filled it. There's got to be, what do you think, 70 maybe, something like that?
It looks about like that,
70-ish, okay. But as we sell some, we've been taking them out.
Hello,
replace them with
Zachariah.
another one we'd bring out of a holding lot we got down in Salt Lake County.
Okay. What if I'm listening right now and I'm like, well, here's the thing. I already have an RV, and you're talking about a liquidation event and a sale. They probably don't want my trade in. They don't want me to go up there and bother with something like that when they're trying to do the closeout. But you will take it, or you will look at it, right?
Absolutely. Nah, that's where a lot of these came from, were trades. So, I mean, there were buybacks. There's some rental returns. There's some, repos. But I'd say 70% of them, or maybe higher than that, but quite a few of them are trade-ins of one kind or another from different locations. And there's no problem taking one that you've currently got and trading it in on another one. You can take one that's more money, trade down, and we'll cut you a check for the difference. You can bring one in that's less money, finance the balance. Whatever works for you. If you want to trade one style in for another style, we're here to handle it.
If I'm looking to finance, and again, I'm new to the RV space. I don't know what kind of situation I can get myself into, but I'm like, all right, I got $500 a month that I can set aside to make my RV payment. Can you get me into something?
You know what? $500 a month gets a nice RV.
Wow.
Okay, a really nice. Like you could get a motorhome for, $500, $600 a month. But let's take that open range travel trailer I'm staring at right there. That thing's like $16,000. That thing's going to be with no money down, and I'm just rolling this off the top of my head, but I'm pretty dang close doing this 34 years. Let's say that thing's about $190 a month.
Wow.
No down. You'd hook that thing up the back of your SUV. It's got air. It's got a power awning. It looks brand new. It sleeps 9. It's pretty dang nice. Hit all of our national parks, our state parks. Take your family out on a vacation. Have the best adventure that you can have. If you like a place, well, then you stay. If you want to move on to a different place, well, then you go. And RVs, you can leave everything in them ready to go. So it sure makes your vacation super simple. You can have a vacation every single weekend if you want.
Tell you what, that's a game changer, because when you're car camping or when you're camping in general, the load in and load out can be about the
much.
It can be.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I just spent 2 days packing and unpacking for a 2-day camping trip.
Right.
But if you could just leave it all in there, great storage in these things.
So I leave my RV ready to roll. And when I mean ready to roll, I leave things in the fridge. Because when I bring it home, I plug my trailer in, leave the fridge on. So my fridge has got things in it ready to roll for the next weekend. I've got my hiking boots, my camp chairs, my lantern, my fire pit, my coats that I keep in my RV. I have everything that I need, and really the only thing I've got to do is get some fresh food. So I either grab some bags and haul them out and put them in the RV, or stop at a Walmart or a Smith's or something on the way out of town and load up and then go.
Look, RVing is a lifestyle, and if you've thought about getting into that lifestyle, today and all the way through Saturday, it's a great time for you to come explore the possibilities. Paris RV up here at
Yeah, hey,
Lake
man,
Hills
can you
Mall
hear me?
for a big-time closeout event of all these used RVs, something at virtually every price point from that
I hear you.
$190
Can
a
you hear
month,
me?
actually even below that, all the way up to
Hey,
this
man.
massive $320,000 Berkshire XLT that I walked through that is bigger than the first house I bought on the inside. So come check it all out. Do it this weekend. Tell them that ESPN 700 and that OC sent you. Brett, thanks for having us out.
Hey, let me add one thing. I saw these guys setting up these cornhole boards.
Uh-huh.
If you can beat one of my staff in cornhole, you can take another $1,000 off of any RV today.
What?
Take $1,000. I don't care if it's off that $5,000 tent trailer or the or the $200,000-$300,000 motorhome or a $20,000
Zachariah?
beat one of my staff. You can pick which
Yeah,
guy.
gotcha.
You can beat him, I'll give you another grand.
A $1,000
Cornhole
cornhole discount.
Yeah.
Come on, only from Paris RV.
Today only.
We'll see you at the Layton Hills Mall. Come see us today. All right, wrapped up the hour now. We start the Zachariah hour next. There is a Super League proposal in place for college football, but we've talked about it for months. What about the money behind it? Well, private equity firms have gotten involved, and they have met with athletic directors. We'll talk about that and much more with Zachariah for the whole next hour on ESPN 700.
All right, Zachariah, we're like a minute out.
Welcome to hour number 3 on a Wednesday on the Sean O'Connell Show. That is the Zachariah hour. You know what my guy Zachariah should be driving? An Ineos Grenadier. He's a tall Dutch individual of above average handsome looks and already a bit of a head turner himself. If he's sitting in an Ineos Grenadier, maybe taking it off road once in a while, get a little mud on the sides where the tires are spinning, people are going to think he's more rugged than he actually is. That's an unstoppable combination. And the Ineos Grenadier is, of course, capable of everything off-road. It's stripped down from the luxury standpoint. I mean, it's still nice on the inside, but they don't have all the unnecessary bells and whistles. It is a performance vehicle and still aesthetically just an absolute masterpiece. I highly encourage you to go check it out at the Warner dealership. 2400 South, 5600 West in West Valley. Tell them Mosi sent you. Or go to WarnerIneosGrenadier.com. Check it all out. They've got every model and all the trim packages and, of course, all the colors as well. Tell them I sent you. My guy Zachariah joining us. You think you could upgrade the vehicle, maybe drive around one of those Ineos Grenadiers?
What's poppin'? Oh, see, hello to you too. I've got to be on because I think I might be somewhere on your scale of people that you love. If I am on that scale of people that you love, I've got to be on like the last number of the list. Like if your list is 30 or 40 or whatever, I've got to be 39 or 40 or whatever.
True. That's not true at all.
No, I'm like Rodney Dangerfield. No respect. Anyways, yes. And I also heard you doing, you probably don't remember this. This is back in the Mr. President days before you had a wife and kids. When I stayed at your crib, you gave me a watch because you were balling back then and you were a UFC fighter and you're getting all these deals. And you gave me like this gold bougie watch, which I still love and still wear to this day. And I hear you doing watch ads now. So when am I going to get any receiving of all this glory, my friend?
Well,
and yes, I'll drive whatever the hell you want. Whatever you just described, I will drive that tomorrow.
Dude, all you got to do is come on out. We'll toss you the keys. You can drive around. People are already looking at you because you're so loud. They're all when you're loud and you're in an Ineos Grenadier, they're going to be like, okay, now I'm showing that guy some respect. All right, I like it.
Just so you know, I'm loud, but not on purpose. You know how some people are loud on purpose? This is how I came out of the womb, OC.
I know.
I sounded like this from the day that I was born. I'm not putting on any effect. Honestly, if I wanted to show you yelling or loud, I could do it. You don't want to hear it. This is just me natural. Just all natural, OC.
Yes, we've been friends. We've been friends for 11 years. I know that you are just loud naturally. You absolutely cannot help it. Despite any wisdom offered, you are just always going to be as loud as you can. And that's one of the many reasons that I love you. So welcome to the show again.
I think one time when we were having lunch, you told it because I was trying to whisper and you were like, dude, even when you whisper, everybody can hear you.
Yeah.
And that's when I just gave up. I tried to whisper and it was not enough. So I gave up. Anyways, how you doing, bud? Sounds like you're on remote. Are you having fun?
Yeah, man. We're at the Paris RV Super Sale, and you know what? You and I should do like a television show where we drive around the country in an RV. That would be that would be a great.
That
time.
would be great. You know what it'd be? It'd be like Jerry Seinfeld has the comedians in cars getting coffee. Yeah. Me and you, absolutely. Just based on, even though me and you were very close, we could not be further apart mentally. And you'd probably say it's because you're smart and I'm dumb. I would look at it in a different way. But yes, 100%. Me and you going like cross country would be amazing footage.
OC and Z in an RV would be the #1 show on Amazon Prime.
There you go. You already named it. Boom.
There it is. All right. I want to jump in to some actual sports conversation here.
Okay.
So the landscape of college football has changed pretty drastically, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, right? We're smack dab in the middle of a game week, and there's questions to be answered and all that, and we'll get to it. But something that has flown under the radar a little bit for really a couple of months now, because these announcements keep coming out, and all of us are like, all right, well, talk to me when something concrete happens. Talk to me when this proposed Super League has a name. Well, now it has a name. And then talk to me when there's contracts and money behind it. Well, there's no contracts yet, Zachariah. But Sports Illustrated and others, they did a pretty detailed report on this proposal that has happened where private equity has gotten involved and made a proposal to athletic directors at some of the blue blood Power 5 universities on how not only to restructure college football specifically, but how to distribute revenue, how to get out of current television contracts and consolidate media rights deals moving forward. And it's about a $9 billion proposal and effort from these private equity firms. And this is when it gets real for me, Zachariah, because money talks, as we have said in every possible form and fashion for several years.
Have you done any self-reflection, by the way? And your lovely wife, Kendall, have you ever talked to her? Have you ever done any self-reflection that a lot of what you come back to, and I remember my father told me, always follow the money. If you want an answer to a question, always follow the money. But have you realized how money-centric you are? Because I feel like a lot of our conversations are about money. But anyways, go ahead. I just wanted to interrupt and say that a lot of your stuff is money-centric.
Well, because money is what makes the sports world go round. And
what makes the world go around. Yes.
And in this case, it's a little bit unfortunate, or maybe it's what saves college athletics from itself. Because right now we are in this very strange limbo where we're trying to fit the square peg of the new NIL system into the round hole of the way things have been done for years, where you commit to a school and you sign your letter of intent and now you're committed, but you could transfer out whenever you want and for whatever reason that you want. And if you want my commitment, you also got to pay me, but it's supposed to be amateurism. And NIL is supposed to be, well, when I've showed you that I'm worthy of endorsement, that's when I can get this money. But it's actually not that. It's actually just here's $500,000 because we think you're talented. So, like, it's the systems, they're oil and vinegar right now. They don't mix. And this proposal from this private equity firm, and yes, from the money that makes it make sense and that could potentially make it happen, that is – now, I think for me, the line of demarcation is like all these ideas are just ideas until money gets involved. And right now there's a proposal of $9 billion on the table. So that's where it gets serious.
Well, okay, OC, you made fun of me because I pretend like I was the first one to say it. But I've been saying for a long time. Now, granted, and I don't think it's a coincidence, and I don't mean to get morbid, but I don't think it's a coincidence that Bill Walton died when the Pac-12 completely dissolved, the Conference of Champions. He loved it so much. And I think it might have literally killed him. That's allegedly. Anyways, my point is from that point forward, I'm like, it's just going to become the AFC and the NFC like you have in the NFL. And obviously the two conferences that are leading that are the SEC and the Big Ten. They can move the names around all they want. You know how ridiculous it is that I'm going to be able to go to a North Carolina Cal basketball game in Berkeley? Like, what?
Unless that's a conference game, that it's
it's ridiculous. The fact that Miami came
you can sit on the deck at your house and look at the San Francisco Bay, which of course is an offshoot of the Pacific Ocean, and you are a mile away from an Atlantic Coast conference school. Yes.
Okay, so at that point, OC, and it's why, again, I'm probably not the first person that said it, but I do think that I was a little bit more in front of it. Just like, let's just move past all this nonsense. Like even Utah, near and dear to my heart now because of you and my affinity and love for Salt Lake City, Utah, and me learning the team and all that stuff. The Big 12, give me a break. Like, it's going to be two separate conferences and whatever. First of all, it's not even safe for work to say who put the money behind this whole thing. Smash Capital? Can you even say that at work? Isn't that like a not safe for work word? Anyway,
that's only in your lexicon. Other people use it for normal purposes.
Okay, I would say 90% of the people listening to my voice right now know what smash means. Anyways, the point is, if they want to put all the money into, go ahead. It's already no longer what it was when we were growing up, OC. It is no longer people saying student athletes, okay? The student has been removed. They're athletes. They're all paid people now. We know how much money the NCAA makes, so just go ahead and do it. And what that's going to mean for the overall landscape, I don't know, OC. You've seen how many iterations of different conferences that Utah has been in. And obviously you liked it the most probably when they were in the Pac-12 or whatever. What is it going to do for the teams that are maybe not top 15 or top 20 or whatever? I don't know, but you're basically there already. So, like, to me, as much as you're – and look, I appreciate that you see it as a story, and obviously this is new development, so it should be something that is recognized and talked about. But for me, it's kind of a non-story because I thought this as soon as the Pac-12 became Tupac, I realized that all this conference stuff is nonsense.
The wild thing about it, the proposal, again, from Smash Capital, which is a $9 billion proposal, allegedly. Project Rudy is what they're calling it, which I don't love that. Don't call it Project Rudy.
Is it Rudy because of the Notre Dame movie?
Yeah, it's got it. I mean, Rudy and Rudy Rudiger, that's – anyway. Proposal for a college football super league, Project Rudy, being reported on by many respected outlets, including Yahoo, including Sports Illustrated. Ross Dellinger kind of spearheaded a lot of this. A $9 billion infusion of private capital cash, and they've actually included a proposal for 70 teams to be involved. And this is where I think it's most fascinating for me. Yes, I guess I'm money-centric, and I look at that $9 billion and I say, that's enough money to make a real change in this world of college athletics. Mm-hmm. And they projected, actually, the long-term projection in this proposal is $15 billion of ticketing and sponsorship and media rights capital. So, again, you're talking about a lot of money. But
That's
said
over a 12-year period, though, right?
Yeah, they said they want 70 teams, a 70-team structure. And
35 and 35.
Yeah, but my worry when this all started to become a possibility was that the big boys, and you correctly identified them, the Big Ten and the SEC, that when the big boys decided, they were just going to say, NCAA, we're sick of you. You serve us no purpose anymore. That they would go to a certain spot, and there would be a total of 35 teams. That the Big Ten would trim the fat, and they would say, we don't need you, Maryland. We don't need you, Indiana. Vanderbilt, all due respect to your huge upset over Alabama, but we know what you are week in and week out. Sorry, Mississippi State, you're a bottom dweller. Missouri, you only have 9 people in the state.
Okay, so where are you going?
So I'm telling you, this is actually way more. This is too many teams. So this 70-team structure, the big boys are going to say, no, I'm not sharing with 69 other teams. They're going to say,
you think they're going to say no to this?
Absolutely they are.
They're $9 billion?
Because they're not going to say a hard no. They're going to say no until you turn that number into 50, or no until that number is 48, no until that number is 42. They're not going to agree to a 70-team superstructure.
Because you're saying that the amount of money is going to be spread too thin.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, what if they just get a higher percentage of the loot?
Well, then you get into a situation where whoever exists between that line of demarcation, and Utah and BYU would have to swallow that pill, right? They'd have to say, okay, Alabama and Ohio State and Oregon and USC and everyone else that we consider blue bloods or new bloods, they're going to get the lion's share, and we're going to take 60% of their revenue. They're already doing that by being members of the Big 12 conference. So I think they say
exactly.
Yes.
You don't think? Okay, I'm thinking about a school like Washington, right? They're not going to get the same amount of money as Georgia or Alabama. Them's just the whatever.
Yeah, but right now,
them's just the facts.
But right now, Washington, 10 years from now, under the current model, Washington is getting the same amount of money as Ohio State is. Washington and Oregon are and UCLA, who doesn't do anything in football, right now they're getting the same amount of money as some of those blue blood programs.
Well, that's got to change.
Michigan and Ohio State. And look, that's why this is fascinating, right? That's why, even though it's a new iteration of a story that's been told 10 times, that's why it gets really interesting, because when private capital comes in, and what is the outcome and goal of a private equity firm? Make money.
Yep.
To buy something, build it, sell it. That's what private equity is. Money, but in its most soulless, cold-blooded form. Private equity firms exist.
I wouldn't quite word it like that.
How would you word it then? That's what they do.
Well, OC, the object of everybody that's doing anything is to make money. So you can't just – I wouldn't just isolate them and make them sound like bad people.
Well, but here's what –
they're not exploiting anything.
They're exploiting a system that has long existed, and they're opportunistic, and it's fine. I'm not telling – this is capitalism. I'm not telling them –
okay, how deep do you want to get into the combo?
No, I'm not telling them to do anything else, but what I'm saying
is
if you want to take – the scientific objective on this, if you want to, the viewpoint being, how do we maximize the absolute most amount of money? And I don't care about I don't care about a historic rivalry. I don't care about geographical relevance. I don't care about a fan base that's been incredibly loyal, even though their team has underperformed, like a Nebraska. A private equity involvement in college football is like, we're going to bleed this thing out, and that's what scares me, because private equity, go look at the history of it. The way that private equity involvement.
Yes, but that's – okay, but here's what I'm saying. I think that all 70, let's say it's 70, I think all of them are going to agree, and I think that all of them are going to agree to take less. The teams that are lower are going to understand this is where I'm at. You know what I mean? If you're not Tupac or Eminem or whatever. I'm dating myself. Who's like the most current new rapper or whatever? The point is, like, you. Well, I honestly, I do not. Kendrick Lamar, I guess, or Drake, whatever. Yeah. Anyways, you know what your status is. So I think that all of them are going to agree to it because, again, $9 billion, OC. I'm trying to get $9 out of you. $9 billion, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll see. But that's the latest on the College Football Super League. That would not come into existence for several more years. I'm going to keep you on this program. I'm going to keep you abreast of any potential developments there because it is always, for me, a fascinating story when we're talking about the existential crisis facing college athletics right now. All right, as I mentioned, we are at the Paris RV Closeout Super Show. We're having a lot of fun today here on location at the Layton Hills Mall in the parking lot. Brett joins us one more time here on the program to talk about the possibility. Last time you sat down, you said you'll give a $1,000 discount today only to someone who can beat one of your staff in a game of cornhole. I love that. Has anyone taken you up on the offer yet?
Not one person.
All right. Well, get out here. $1,000 off if you could beat. Is it a bunch of ringers? Do you guys like practice cornhole all day? Is that why you made that offer?
No, I mean I actually don't know their skill set. I've never played cornhole with them, so I'm not really sure. In fact, I was joking.
All right.
I was joking. I told Penny and Jasmine, our two female staff members, I said, how good are you two at this?
Well,
it might cost me a lot of money.
Whoever comes and tests it out,
I don't care.
Today's the right day to do it. All right, fifth wheels, travel trailers, the big-time motorhomes, the small, I don't know if you can call them compact motorhomes. What is sort of the bottom end of the motorhome drives itself type world look like?
That'd be like a regular Class C motorhome. That'd be on a Ford or Chevy cutaway chassis, like a 3500 or 4500 chassis. And, there's stuff like that they're all different price ranges, right? I mean, new, they can be, $90,000 on up. Used, we've got some over here for under $50,000.
And how many of these are diesel? How many of them are hybrid? How many of them are gas?
0 of them are hybrid.
Okay.
No hybrid RVs. There is like this little B van over here, this Bolt.
Yep.
So the chassis part of it, the little van part, is a Mercedes Sprinter diesel, and so it's a all-wheel drive Mercedes. But the back part of it is 100% electric, so it doesn't need a generator. Most RVs have a generator. That one doesn't have a generator. It's got a bunch of solar on the roof, some supersized inverters, and some big lithium batteries that are up underneath, and everything runs on 12-volt or inverted AC.
All right, if I'm listening right now, and I know I want to get into – I want to have easier access to the outdoors. I live in the state of Utah. I want to go to these national parks. I want to spend time in the state parks. I want to get out, check out these national monuments. But I don't really know anything about this world. Can I come to you and be like, all right, family of 5, this is what I need, this is what I'm hoping to do, and you can point me to the right vehicle?
Absolutely. So here would be a typical scenario. Yeah, I'm a family of 5. I want to spend under $250 a month, 0 down, and I got a Suburban. What can I tow? We've got nice travel trailers. Of course, you could always get a folding trailer, but a nice travel trailer to handle your family, put it behind a SUV or something, leave it packed up, ready to go hit all the famous Utah spots. It amazes me in Utah, people from all over the world come right to Utah to come here to see our backyard.
Yeah.
And everybody here is trying to figure out how to go somewhere else. You could entertain your family for years just with our public parks right here in Utah. We're super lucky to have this playground right here in our backyard.
And if you want to find an easy way to access it, do so in style, do so with a little bit of luxury. All of those options are available to you because of this Paris RV closeout event happening now through Saturday at the Layton Hills Mall. We're in the northwest corner of the parking lot. You'll see the Hill Air Force Base jets flying over. Just follow the sound, but come see us up on Hillfield Road and talk to Brett about all the possibilities. Thanks for having us.
Come play around a cornhole.
Yeah, around a cornhole. Get $1,000 off. That's today only, ladies and gentlemen, so get yourselves up here to the Layton Hills Mall. All right. Is it a must-win game for the San Francisco 49ers? And Zachariah, from the outside looking in is going to tell us if Cam Rising or Isaac Wilson starts for Utah against Arizona State on Friday. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700.
Sorry, man. We were up against it. No.
Okay. Okay. Sean O'Connell Show on a Wednesday, coming at you from the Paris RV closeout mega event at the Layton Hills Mall in the parking lot. Used RVs for sale, every make, every model, every size, every shape, every budget. Come hang out today, or if you can't make it today, this will be going through Saturday. Sean O'Connell Show, the Zachariah Hour on a Wednesday. My guy Zachariah joining us. Underdog Fantasy, by the way, treating me very, very well. Can do the same for you. Just download the very easy-to-use app. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com, and then all you do is you set a fantasy lineup with real cash by predicting higher or lower totals on the projected stats for whatever player you want to pick. So because the Utah Hockey Club started their season last night, I decided I would do some matchups. I would do some picks based on that Blackhawks versus Utah Hockey Club matchup. I went higher than a half point for Connor Bedard. Cashed. I went higher than a half point for Clayton Keller. Boom. Hit on that one as well. And then I went higher than 24.5 saves for Connor Ingram. And in game, that turned green. Connor Ingram was credited with, I think, 27 saves at the end of the game. And then they went back and adjusted. And unfortunately, he ended lower than 24.5. In fact, 24 saves. But because you can flex your cash pick'ems, I got 2 out of 3 right, so I still cashed. And that is why Underdog Fantasy, one of the many reasons why Underdog Fantasy is an incredible way to interact with sports and to add a little interest to your sports world. OC Show is the promo code you're going to sign up with. They'll give you a free pick'em for your introductory offer, and then you can also qualify to win $1,000 bonus cash when you make your first deposit. But when you sign up at UnderdogFantasy.com or on the mobile app, you have to use the promo code OCShow. Get it done. All right, my guy Zachariah joining us, stopping by. I've been remiss, Zachariah. College game day was almost inexplicably in your hometown of Berkeley, California, at your alma mater, University of California, for the Cal versus Miami game. And it was just a magical day all day long in Berkeley, right up until Cam Ward ruined everyone's fun. It looked like they were going to win the game. Ultimately, they did not. But how was your experience on game day?
I got to say, my expectations were very low because, as you know, we have a lot of professional teams out here. So college sports is not really the subject of a lot of my text threads with a lot of my dear friends that were born and raised in this area. We're just not college people for the most part because we've had, 2 baseball teams, 2 football teams, a basketball team, blah, 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 blah. I got there at 5:30 in the morning, OC, and that place was packed. And it was not only packed, we put on. Now, I know Pat McAfee has given a lot of love over the course of his past couple of shows over these days, and it's going to be, overwhelmed by Aaron Rodgers and the firing of Robert Saleh and all that stuff. But man, I was just proud of my city. Like, you would have thought there would have been like whatever Israeli-Palestinian protests or people sitting in trees or whatever. Everything was all good. The mood was great. There was no fights that I could have seen, no trouble, no nothing. People lined up at midnight. It was fantastic. And then I went home, took a power nap. I can't, I'm 41. Just turned 41 yesterday. You didn't wish me happy birthday, but that's because, again, I'm number 40 on your list of exactly.
Hold on. Do you know when my birthday is?
Yeah, it's like I'd like to pretend like it's 10 years before mine, but it's like early September.
Yeah. But do you know when my birthday is? Like, if somebody doesn't inform you that it's my birthday, do you know to wish me happy birthday?
Yeah, I'd figure it out from Facebook or something.
No,
anyways,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
not
you can't.
The point.
Happy birthday, belated. I feel bad that I missed it, but also like
you should feel bad.
But there's no way for me to know your birthday. I'm a grown adult. I don't have like birthday calendars written down.
Well, I wished you happy birthday on your birthday.
Because it was announced that it was my birthday publicly. Other people.
What do you mean publicly? Who said it publicly?
On social media, people were wishing me happy birthday, and you saw it. I didn't see that.
That's not why I wished you happy. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I digress. The day was wonderful, and yes, you know what the score was, OC, at the end of the third quarter?
Yeah, well, it was a 25-point comeback, and I didn't want to rub the salt in that
one
for you, but
yeah, and the point that I don't want to talk about anything else. Look, the day was great. I'm very proud of Berkeley. I think game day was impressed. And the only thing that I've ever cared about, and I've talked about this job for like 20 years, is that I've always said that I just want to go to the University of Berkeley and say, I just want you to hire me to recruit athletes to come here because the Bay Area is great and we should have way better teams than we do because they all stink. So the only thing that I think about when I'm watching the game, I'm not thinking about the players. I'm not thinking about the fans. I'm not thinking about myself, OC. What I'm thinking about is recruits. And that was a night game, so everybody's watching, and that was a chance to beat a top 10 team, and they were up 35-3 or something at the end of the third and then pissed it away. And we're not even talking about Hail Marys and onside kicks, OC. They just did it old school. Just forced the turnover, forced the 3-and-out, and then scored a touchdown. Next thing you know, Miami wins the game. So anyways, it was sickening at the end. But, yes, the day in general was great.
All right.
Thank you for allowing me to get that off my chest.
You're going to find some sympathy for that sick feeling from college football because there are plenty of Utah fans who are a little disenfranchised at this moment coming off a bye week, going into a Friday night game against Arizona State because there's no clarity. and they're just worried. People are just worried, and I've been trying to calm and pump the brakes on a lot of this worry. I still think Utah's a really good football team.
Yep.
Obviously, the ideal situation would be for Cam Rising to be healthy and starting.
Mm-hmm.
And the faith in that being a possibility this week and in weeks
is
beyond
waning.
seems to be just fading fast.
Waning. Yeah. And
so
I appreciate your optimism, but I'm with anybody else. And look, OC, there's a reason why you've included in every one of your polls, wake me up when Cam Rising is healthy.
Yes.
I mean, that's how everybody feels. And me as an adopted fan down there and having delved myself into learning all the players and learning all the backgrounds and trying to know as much as I can about the team, I was disheartened when they lost to Arizona. And I don't know how to feel going into this Arizona State game, who's surprisingly 4-1. We talked about whatever, fractions of concern or whatever James and I did. I'm totally freaked out about every game, and it all goes back to your poll. What do you put at the end of all your polls? Is Cam healthy? Wake me up if Cam is healthy. The only thing that matters is whether or not Cam's healthy.
I put a poll out today, and I'm going to put it out every single week until we have a real answer.
Yeah.
Do you think Cam Rising starts the game? We're post-bye week now.
Yeah.
Do you think Cam Rising starts the game Friday night in Tempe against Arizona State?
I unfortunately have no idea because I thought he was going to start at Oklahoma State. I thought he was going to start at home against – he's been warming up every game. You read the quotes, right? And I listened to your interviews, and I know you only get Coach Witt briefly when it's a bye week and stuff like that. But everything that he says is that he wants to play. But he's also thrown in little accolades like, oh, well, technically he could have another year next year if he redshirts or whatever. I mean, do you have any idea? You're closer to the pulse than me, OC. Do you have any idea whether or not he's going to play on Friday?
Well, no, that's kind of the point of me asking everyone who has any even passing interest, because now I'm just mining, I'm farming for clues, and I'm farming for sentiment. What do people think? And what people think now, according to the poll I put up today, was that it's going to be Isaac Wilson again. So now what you're talking about.
That would be my guess, OC. And you as a fighter and somebody that got injured all the time and showed up to the studio in San Francisco with a full-blown half purple face because your face got beaten in, you should know a lot about injuries. Do you have any familiarity with what's going on with his finger? I know it's the throwing hand, so that's obviously important. But is that something that can heal, or is that something that's going to be year-long?
Well, that's where the lack of transparency that we've talked about for now going on 10 days is frustrating, because so let's say that the report came out immediately post-game, right? He gets pushed out of bounds on the sideline, and there's something wrong with the hand, and they say, hey, he got a pretty nasty laceration, so he's got to get some stitches there. People are going to be like, okay, that's 4 to 7 days. Sounds good. And they say, also, he broke the finger. Everyone's going to go, oh, no, that's not good. But then everyone under the sun can look it up and say, how long does it take a broken finger to heal? And they're just like, oh, okay, in 3 weeks. And the conversation stops there for the most part. Or maybe they give you a report and they say, hey, it's a broken finger and there's going to be a minor surgery. Now, a little bit more of a question. And people are like, okay, minor surgery, what does that mean? Does that mean that he's not coming back, a minor surgery? I have no idea because we don't get these answers, but I'm just throwing out hypotheticals like a small repair is going to be done. We're told this the week after the injury actually happens. And then people go, all right, well, maybe he'll be back for the BYU game November 9th. Maybe instead of being back after the first bye week, we'll see him back after the second bye week. And that's not ideal, but at least everybody knows that you're turning the page and you're rallying behind the freshman and you're making decisions based on that, and your offensive playbook looks a certain way based on things like that. But that there is no transparency, and there is no reports. And instead, people get the dog walker who lives across the street from the Whittinghams, who told somebody's cousin that, Cam Rising had the finger amputated and his career is over, and then that gets out there into the world. Or like, hey, he's actually fine and he just doesn't want to play. That gets out there into the world. And then everyone's like, well, what is it? What's happening? We don't really know, and that's why I asked this same question a week ago, and the numbers were flipped. 65% of people think, yes, Cam's going to start after the bye. And now people are like, nope, because there's no answer, Zachariah. Even for those of us who feel like we are informed, I spent some time on the show this week sort of applauding how tight the ship is, how tightly the ship is run at the University of Utah, where players are not just like getting so frustrated, they're just like telling one way or another because somebody's got to know.
Yeah, I mean, no leaks. And look, Coach K basically said overtly, he's like, why would I tip you off on whether or not he's going to play? So it's
Correct.
basically, I mean, it's not like he's pulling punches. He's telling you straight up, you're going to have no clue. So you ask me if he's going to start. How can I have any clue if the coach is telling you that he's not going to give anybody a clue? Nobody knows.
He tells us, and everyone's just like, okay. But then even when you talk to players, you can't get a clear answer. And I pressed Isaac Wilson. We have that sound at ESPN 700 or on the app of when we spoke with Isaac Wilson post-practice. And I was like, do you know if you're going to start? And he had to give me the diplomatic answer. I was trying to ask it in a way where it didn't seem like I was grilling him, but I was like, you really don't know on a Tuesday of practice week, of game week, whether or not you're going to be the starter this week. And I couldn't assess whether he knows or whether he was just giving me the diplomatic answer.
He know. Okay, so this is why I need you, because unfortunately I have an inability to be diplomatic, and you're very good at that. And I did hear that, and but here's the thing, 100% he knows. This goes back to, if you want to talk about Aaron Rodgers, we haven't touched on that, but give me a break of whether or not Aaron Rodgers did not have a conversation with the owner about whether or not the coach was going to get fired. So yes. The answer to your question is he 100% knew. So if he did a good enough job of you not knowing whether or not he knew, then kudos to him. But I assure you he knows whether or not he's starting on Friday.
Do you think he knew he was going to start against Arizona? Because those were both quote-unquote game-time decisions.
Well, yeah, Oklahoma State too. I mean, Cam Rising's been warming up every game, that's probably why your poll is shifted.
In any case.
Well, I'm just saying that's probably why your poll is shifted, of people thinking that he's going to start and then not thinking that he's going to start, because he's been warming up and all signs are looking like he could go play, but he has not been doing it. So it's like, when would that end? If it didn't end 2 weeks ago, why is it going to end this week? And again, that's why I'm asking you.
Black Desert Championship.
I'm asking you as the fighter. I'm asking you as the fighter who has had a bunch of injuries. I'm thinking that you could probably have a better idea of that, because I've never broken a bone in my body. So I have no clue.
I can't hear Zachariah, or if you out there listening can't hear Zachariah, but it kind of doesn't matter. We're almost up against the EA Golf comes back to Utah for the first time in 60 years. October 9th through the 13th. That's now and through. Daily passes, VIP passes, travel accommodations.
Hey man, I think there's some technical
out.
stuff on
Black
OC's
Desert Championship.
Hey, man, OC's Comrex died. So I think it'll be just me and you, if you're good with that. Can you hear me, Zechariah? Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. James Peterson filling in for the last few minutes here, having some technical difficulties. Sean is still out at the Paris RV liquidation blowout sale out at the Layton Hills Mall off Hillfield Road, out in Layton. Check that out. They've got outstanding deals on RVs, trailers, all those vehicles you can pack up and go have a lot of fun. Go for a nice drive. Go have a nice weekend in a new RV, courtesy of Paris RV. Again, blowout sale, closeout blowout sale, liquidation sale, all those things happening at the Layton Hills Mall in Layton off of Hillfield Road. Really appreciate Paris RV. Topical trivia. We've got 2 tickets to Imagine Dragons. They've got 3 shows going on in the next about 5 days or so, 5-6 days or so here. Friday, Saturday, Tuesday. We're going to give you 2 tickets to one of those shows. They're out at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. Also, 2 free Jersey Mike sub cards. They are the hot lunch sponsor this week. That goes to the person who can answer this question, this topical trivia question. First person to text it in, 877-353-0700. Utah Hockey Club had their inaugural game last night at the Delta Center. We didn't talk about this on the show, so it's a little bit kind of different of a topical trivia, if you will. But how many fans did they have at the Delta Center last night? That's the Delta Center last night for the inaugural game. How many fans came out? We'll just give it to because I'm not sure how Googleable this is, and we did not give this away on the show. So we'll just give it to the person who's closest to that number. I've got the answer here, 877-353-0700. Jersey Mike sub cards, the hot lunch sponsor today, and 2 tickets to see Imagine Dragons. One of their 3 shows over the next 6 days over in West Valley at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. That's what you get if you're the closest to the number that a number of fans at the Delta Center last night for the Utah Hockey Club, their home opener and their inaugural NHL regular season game. That'll do it for the Sean O'Connell Show today. Again, thank you to Paris RV. Head on over to their closeout liquidation sale, the blowout sale happening at Layton Hills Mall, Hillfield Road in Layton. Spence Checketts and The Drive are next. Spence is also on remote. He is at the Dish Pros in Midvale. Head on over there, Dish Pros, 8034 South State Street in Midvale. Get your TV situation hooked up at the Dish Pros. Spence and The Drive are next here on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.